the city. All right, perfect. So guys, since there's 3 of us, I'm going to start working on reading the agenda so we can move forward. I love you guys dearly, but it's been a long day for me traveling from out of town. Okay. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today, April 25th, 2027 at 7:01 p.m. Call to order. Valerie Woodall.
I'm here.
Jared Stofis.
I'm here.
Jimmy Tarlow.
Here.
And Luke Chesick. Luke should be joining us in a few minutes or so. Okay. All right. So welcome to the virtual meeting. We are going to move on to item number 2, review of the agenda. Vice Mayor, can you please go ahead and review our wonderful agenda?
Absolutely. Agenda of the proposed FY2024 budget legislative meeting of the Mayor and City Council, City of Mount Rainier virtual meeting, Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, 7 p.m. Items for discussion. Number 1, call to order. Number 2, review of the agenda. Number 3, discussion on proposed fiscal year 2024 budget. Number 4, vote on amending the code chapter 7, licenses and permits, municipal infraction. Number 5, sorry if you can scroll down. Thank you. Second reading of ordinance number 5-2023, an ordinance establishing the tax rate, adopting an annual budget, and appropriating funds for fiscal year 2024, beginning July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024. Number 6, presentation discussion on Memorial Park Streetscape project. Number 7, discussion on awarding the bid for the Memorial Park Streetscape project. And number 8, adjournment.
All right, thank you so much. Can I ask for us to swipe the amending the code chapter 7 before we start talking about the proposed fiscal budget? Because that falls right into it. Hello?
Yeah, I don't have an opposition to that.
I'm good with that.
All right. Hello, Luke. Valerie and Jimmy, how are you guys doing?
Fine.
We're good. So we are going to be switching number 4 to number 3. We're just going to swipe them so that way we could flow. Okay. All right. So any additions to the agenda or something you need to take out?
I see. Sorry, just a note. I see Mr. Kamali's hand up.
I did I usually go to council first.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure.
Go. Yep. All right. What's going on? Hello? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Are you asking me, Mayor?
Your hand is up, Mr. Kamali.
Yes. Well, I was waiting for the rest of the council. No, I just want to let you know that, I couldn't get a hold of David Miller from LID because they had a death in the family. So we will not have any presentation for Memorial Park. So, and as you know that we have done this one few times before.
I think
for number 6.
I can take folks through that and through the if you have a recommendation on the bid, Kamali, I can take folks through what it is.
Sure.
So it's split into numbers, Luke, but if you could walk us through it, I think it's important, especially because work is about to start.
Yeah.
So at least for people to highlight, I know you've been working on this for quite a bit of time, so I'd like for them to be aware that this is happening. Okay. So we'll leave it as this, and then we'll work on it, and then we could bring it back to the agenda if more details, information is needed. All right.
All right. Thank you.
So is there anything? So guys, are we good with the accepting the agenda with that change made? Sweeping number 4 to number 3. Good.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. All right. So moving on to item number 3, voting on amending Code Chapter 7, license and permits for municipal infractions. The Mayor and Council will vote on the recommendation by Ms. Alma Ferrofina, Director of Compliance. As a reminder to all, Co-Director presented her information and her research to us on the last work session. So this will be, this is the reason why this was on, because there was consensus on putting it here. All right. So Alma, the floor is yours. And if you're speaking, you're on mute, Alma. Go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. We're here to definitely talk about the Code Compliance Division doing a recommendation on our ordinance penalty schedule fee. I've been asking Mayor and Council to change our current code ordinance on the penalty code for Section 7-109, violations and fines for business licenses and also permitting. And the recommendation for that current code would be to change to Section 7-109 violations fines to be fined $200 first for the first offense. $500 for each day that the violation continues. And this would definitely be for the business license section, requesting that we also do a business cease of operation for anyone operating without a license in our business licensing division.
Thank you, Alma. So, Council, I'm going to open up the floor to you. First, we're going to go with Ward 1. Luke, Jimmy, Jerry, Valerie, go ahead.
I can start, and I apologize for not raising this at the work session, and I know Amar has put a lot of work into this. The question is, have we talked to the MRBA about this? I mean, a lot of our businesses, are struggling, and the idea of 500 days for each violation, honestly would put them out of business. We have a lot of businesses that are like, just kind of, making their ends meet and having a hard time playing these things. So I'm sorry I didn't raise it earlier. I may have missed the discussion. But I was wondering if before we vote on it, we at least review it with the MRBA and get their impact on it. Have we heard from them at all? Because it seems like a pretty severe, fine for people. And we already have one business that contacted us asking for a waiver. So I'm just wondering if we, before we move it, we talked to the MRBA about this.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Luke.
Yeah, I appreciate what Jimmy said, but I appreciate everything Alma presented to us when she brought this before. I'm wondering if $200 for first offense, I think I understand why we need that. I think that makes sense. $500 for each day that violation continues. I'm wondering if we could say, if you look at the way the current ordinance stands, there's $50 for each 30-day period that violation continues. Okay. And so I'm wondering if we could say something like $500 for each 30 or 60-day period that violation continues. So it's a little bit, it's not like every day they don't do it, it's another $500. I think that's kind of a lot. And so that's just a suggestion I have. Interested to hear what everybody else has to say. Thank you.
So, look, just to be clear in the same page, you're saying instead of to be 500 daily, to be 500 every 30 days. Is that it? Yeah,
I think that might be a little bit more palatable.
All right. Thank you for that. So you guys heard the suggestions. Jared, Valerie, go on.
Yeah, thank you, Selena. And thank you, Alma, for putting this together. I hear both you and Jimmy are that point, and I thanks for highlighting that before we, I guess, move forward. Alma, just so I understand again, what is the annual business license fee? Is that a percentage of their revenue, or is it a flat fee, or what is it?
So the yearly fee really depends on the square footage of the business. The city business license, it's between $50, kind of like the smallest square footage of the businesses, up to $200 is the most that actually our city requires for business license. And then we have the 150 that is always charged yearly for the MRBA, which is the CDMA fee. So basically what consists of is the most, I would say small business would be paying is the $50 plus the 150, which is $200. And bigger businesses like, say, maybe a auto parts, it's $200 because of the square footage plus the 150, which is $350 altogether. So that ranges.
Because, like, if I'm looking at this, and I going back to the earlier point about this is kind of aligning our code with what other cities do, but if I'm understanding correctly, the first fine would actually cover the business expense, the cost of the business license, would it not? For almost all the...
For the whole year?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, fine of $200 for the first offense. Yes.
Because I guess the issue here is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's not that folks can't pay a $50 to $200 fee per year. It's that they're not they're not getting the license that they're required to have to operate in the city.
Correct.
So if they're not doing the license, is the prospect of the fine? I mean, I do agree that, like, it seems kind of punitive to have a fine. I understand if other cities are doing it, it does seem punitive to have a fine that high, if that's the price of but like, what's compelling people not to renew a $50 license?
I'm not exactly sure. What I can tell you is that we try to work with our businesses. We've been hand delivering applications in the beginning of the year. We have them sign for the application saying that they received the application. And then other businesses that do not receive it hand delivered, we try to go ahead and mail it out. I know that MRBA does put a reminder out there. So to answer your question, I'm not exactly sure what's happening and why we have a couple of businesses that still to this point have not submitted their renewals.
So if the issue is, so you also have your, request the business is issued a cease operation for operating. I mean, that would really be the concern here. Like,
that would be more like an extreme situation where, I mean, we go back to the point where, like, last year we had businesses that end up paying in September and October, November, December, when their license was due back in February 28th.
Okay. So here, maybe this is, sorry, and I know I'm running over my time here, but maybe I think obviously we want people to register a business because they're supposed to, and we need to have them registered, and we need to, if we have code that we're requiring everyone to follow and we're syncing with the county, we need them to register. I don't think a $50 to $150 annual registration fee to me feels overly onerous. I do feel that, if we're not getting compliance, I don't know that, I think the issue may be, like, are we able to, as you mentioned here, issue a cease operation if they're not registering their business as they're required to by the city? That feels more consistent than $200 for each, for the first offense, and then $500 each day. I don't know that. So,
let me add to that as well. So the only reason why I guess we looked into it and we decided to go ahead and request for this recommendation also is the part where the fine penalty goes for the whole Chapter 7. So that's for licensing and permitting. When it comes to licensing, we have been also encountering where some of our businesses, are not complying with paperwork. And as you know, I think in order for us to keep our folders in compliance, we have to have paperwork from business owners. Mostly if you're talking about businesses that are running stores for long hours of the day, and also selling merchandise that is not part of what their license used to be. So
Understood.
that's another reason why we made this recommendation as well, because anytime we would send a notice of violation, do the certified mail, and jump into citations, we had the issue of coming back and saying, well, it's only $25 that we have to pay. So let's go ahead and just pay it, and, didn't comply. So that's the reason why we definitely needed this.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I guess those are. Oh, sorry. Go on. Yeah.
So go ahead and wrap up your question, Jared, because I want to give time to Valerie, and then
Yeah, sorry. And I
Fine.
I do understand that, Alma. I just think, if we have a fine that's $200 for the first offense, $500 for each day the violation continues on a business license, that's a very different situation, in my opinion, than some of the other item dynamics that you mentioned, right? So, like, obviously we want people to rectify a code issue and immediately, and not just pay a fine and deal with it, right? But I do think that, someone's like a month late, I don't think we, on their business license, because of an administrative error or something like that, we have 200 plus 500 x 30.
So let me just explain a little. We definitely work with the businesses. We don't right off the bat, say we're going to give you the penalty on this. We definitely work with them. We first work with 30 days later from February 28th, we give you $100 late fee. 60 days from the ordinance states, we go ahead and put a reinstatement fee of $300. So it's not where, they go over the February 28th and we go ahead and run into giving them the penalty. No, that's not the way we're doing it. We're still working with the businesses right now as it is, trying to make them comply. The fines is just to the extreme level where, okay, months later, we're still dealing with this, then it's definitely something that we need to jump into.
Thank you so much. Jared, one point you did not address, there's a proposition for Luke to change the second part to 500 a month, or 500, what current states of 500 a day. How open are you to that? I'm trying to figure out where we are with consensus, at least in the second part. Where are you with that?
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Okay. All right, Valerie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Alma, for working through these issues. I know when we put numbers behind and fines and fees and all the things, that can definitely scare business owners as they are working to make ends meet and to turn a profit and all of the things that they're working toward. And we want our business community to be strong, but we also always want our business community to also be supported. So I think you're doing a good job with that. And I support Luke's thought about changing it to 30 days to give that window. I think that's a good idea. But other than that, I think this is okay. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Valerie. So I'll tell you my thoughts. I think that part of the reason why I feel like the fees is there, so that way it encourages them to go get the license. Because what I'm getting from Alma and the team is that they rather pay, let's say, here's $25. We're not going to pay the $200, because in the long run, they'll get to, like, even if it's in 4 months later, they might eventually get to $100 off. And in the meantime, they're operating, right? What was, I don't need to know the name of the business, but what was the latest payment you received last year when it came to a license, a business paying their license?
It was actually, Mayor, October last year.
So the fee was due in February and they paid until October their funding, right?
Yes, and the business that we're talking about ultimately also was not in compliance with paperwork because they went from being a market to selling other products. So that's something that we definitely also want to keep in mind, is that if any business is operating in the city, we just want to make sure that everything is in compliance both with us, the county, and the state.
Thank you so much. So I will tell you that, Luke, thank you for the recommendation for that $500 a month. I think I like that one. So Alma, I like the first part of it, right? $200 first offense, and then that $500 per month. So that way you still have it, right? So that way it's still some sequence. I think even the data that Alma shows, small cities and, around us, and even bigger cities are charging a lot more than we are, even with the fees. I think that also sometimes is lost in translation, that the city fee itself is $50. So even if they're paying $200, the other $150 is coming from MRBA, and the team is basically following the people, getting information out on those $50 we get. So time wise for the staff, it's a lot for those 50. I know we get 15%, so it'll be for $15, we're doing all the other administrative work and the follow through and everything else that comes with it. So it's a lot of work that our team puts together to try to one is it's not necessarily about the funding, but it's also to make sure that they're in compliance, to make sure if residents or visitors are making purchases on those businesses that they are in compliance, they have the proper paperwork, because if not, it's not beneficial, say, for anybody. So I like I mentioned, I like the fine for the $200 for the first offense and $500 for each month within the violation that continues, and the request to issue a cease. I think that's good to have it, so that way they know, you guys have the ability to do that. I think the county also does, but sometimes it delays a little bit more than we want to. But yeah, so that's kind of my feedback at this point. Kamali, is that an old hen or a new hen?
No. This is a new hen, Mayor. If you allow me, I just want to let the Mayor and Council, know that I do support Alma and I agree with Luke, but we do have a hard time right now, even with $25 fine, they're not in compliance. And we have more than 10 businesses. Alma and I have been talking today, yesterday, last week, and still they're not, coming to renew their license because it was due on February 28th, and today is April 25th. So I think we need to somehow, work on the fines, and whoever is not in compliance, we want to make sure that our businesses, we do support our businesses, and we want to make sure that they stay in compliance. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. And just to remind all of us that not last year, but the previous year, the city of Rainier waived how many businesses almost fees?
Let's say about 25 businesses were waived.
Okay, so 25. We waived 25 fees as well, and last year, although there were various one that didn't pay, obviously now then got closed down. Anyway, so Jimmy, this is a new hand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So again, I apologize to Alma about not doing this earlier. I think that it should go to the MRBA. We're kind of business friendly. I don't know if they actually got a copy of the new schedule and what the input would be on this. I also, spent about a year and a half working with a lot of the businesses, and I think if you triple or quadruple or multiply the fines by 10 times, you're not going to get any more, people giving, doing it on time. And just, that's not the issue there. And we already have enough fine. If somebody is 6 months late, they owe another $400, which is a lot of money for some of these small things. Even Luke's thing, $500 for that's like $4,000 or $5,000, and our business just can't afford that amount of money. I just don't believe that increasing the penalty will actually increase the compliance. It's just a lot of work to do that. So, again, I would ask that this go to MRBA, at least to get some input and to raise, and maybe they think it would help. The other problem is you have some businesses. If you kind of work with some businesses, give a fine, and others, you then deal with like a discriminatory practice. Some businesses are getting waivers while other businesses aren't. So it's a problem by making the fee too much. So I may be in the minority. I can't just go ahead with this without at least getting some input from the MRBA, letting them at least say what they think about this, and then moving on. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, anybody else? Or we're good? I usually ask you guys if somebody else say something, then I usually ask you guys to make sure it's up there on it. So I'm just going to point something out to you, Jimmy. As of right now, we have businesses that are asking a waiver even with the low fee, which means that some business could sit there and say like they're not being treated fair because other businesses are getting waived for being late, and they did everything they could to pay on time. So that's what's happened in the past. That's one of the things that the business do complain, that they done everything in the effort to like pay on time. And then people that are also, that are now the businesses, some of them are doing okay, some are not, but that's the sense of people feeling like, okay, then fine. I struggle to make sure like I make it on time. I'm struggling just as bad or worse than the other business. And I did everything I could to be, to pay on time. If you guys are going to give waivers, then I will not pay on time because I know you're going to waive my fee. So that's also something that's happening right now. So I don't think the increase will cause that because it's happening, right now. So I will tell you that there are businesses that are feeling like that right now, even with that. And I'll tell you why, because when we report to the MRBA, right, and they're asking us, how come we haven't given them the pass through of their money? Because as what Alma just explained, the biggest chunk of the fee is MRBA's money. It's not even the city's money, right? So the city's only $50. And for a smaller business, and MRBA we get $15 of the $150. So they get $135 out of that money. But then the city is the one that's doing all the work, right? So that's something that, I know it was decided forever ago for those fees to be combined, right? But maybe they will have different approach if they knew like the city fees, like here's a city fee paid to the city, MRBA, charges for their fees. It might be easier for them to come with the amount.
That'd be the end of the MRBA.
Well, yeah, but that's the reality is like we're being the strong muscle to try to get the money for $50. So if a business might be like, oh, I quote for $50, but not the $150 for the association fee, right? So it makes it hard because we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for this amount. So, so that's where I'm like, I'm okay with proceeding with what Luke suggested, because I feel like, at least like we're going to be compliant. If not, we're definitely going to have, we might have to have the conversation about separating both fees. So that way they're in compliance with us turning in the paperwork and the $50, and we don't have to, deal with the other part, So that's something to consider in the long run, but be aware that might be a difference on why is it that they quote for $50 and not the $200. But that was me. Luke, I think I saw your mic open. Go ahead.
I have two other ideas here to maybe address some of the concerns. One idea is we could lower the fine to $150 for the first offense, and then have it be, $300 for each 30-day violation, something like that. I think maybe we could play with the number. And then the second thing I was going to think is if we make these fines higher, maybe 30 days into these fines going into effect, we could do go out to the businesses and say, hey, we're going to do a one-time only, no penalties on late fees. Just pay us your fee for the year, come into compliance. If you don't, we want to let you know that the fees going into the new year are going to be a lot higher. They're going to be 200 for first defense, 500 for every 30 day after that. So like tell them like, hey, we're going to do this sort of like the library does that thing where it's like, bring your books back, no late fees. Maybe we could do something like that. So it's like we give people a chance to come into compliance without fees. And then we institute the new fee system going forward so that everybody knows there's a hard hammer out there. Just an idea.
So, Luke, I have a question for you. How do we address businesses that are late every single year and utilize this free waiver every year?
It would not be every year. It would be a one-time thing. We would say something to the effect of the mayor and council just passed a change to the ordinance. Going forward, fees, late fines are going to be $200 for the first offense, $500 for every 30-day period that continues. On a one-time only basis, as we move to this new code, we're willing to waive any outstanding fees that exist if you come into compliance within 30 days and pay us your fee. After that, the new fee structure will go into effect and you will owe this much more money.
So July 1st is when this fee is going to affect, because it's with the budget, Luke, so this is not going to affect tomorrow. It's until July 1st with the new budget. We could do a combination of it. I know Code has been sending letters and messages and everything. So something that I was going to recommend for the team was to send a letter out this week to let them know, here's the new fee structure for July 1st. Make sure that you pay, we could decide to collectively say, we'll waive it, but starting July 1st, the new fees will come into effect. So that way, how do you call it? They still have 2 months to pay, a little bit over 2 months, right? And then we start doing the new fees. But that is one of the concerns, like what I mentioned earlier. You do have businesses feeling like, what's the purpose of them paying on time if at the end of the day, they could pay whenever if things are waived? And that creates extra work for the team as they're trying to clear the business licenses, so that way they could continue doing the inspections on the apartments and everything else. So now they have to go out of their way to do this as well. So we could do a combination. I think the fee structure with, and you guys could decide where you guys are on it, right? The fee structure as presented, I like the suggestion that you said, after the 30 days, how do you call it? It's going to be the new fee instead of daily. 1 and 2, send notices out saying starting July 1st is the new fee structure. So you could come in to pay, we'll waive it so you could get on the schedule this year. But next year you basically abide by whatever the rules are. Is that what you're thinking? Sorry, Luke, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Council, where are you with it?
I asked a question about whether MRBA had been notified about this.
No, MRBA was not notified. I did not know that I had to do that.
You didn't have to. I just was asking.
Yeah, just to be clear, you don't have to. I think he was just asking,
Yeah, no, we didn't notify them. So here's the thing: the penalty that we're recommending is when we have to run into the citation part of it. We have the schedule of fees that shows that we can do a late fee of 100, and after 60 days, we can do 300 reinstatement fee. So those two are something totally different. So are you telling me that we should also waive the letter that we put out there already for 30 days after and 60 days after? Because they're two different situations.
Luke, I see your mic open. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a little confused now. So so you're saying these figures here are just for fines when we actually
fine when we have to
issue a violation.
Into the citation part of it. That's I wanted to make that clear because I think it's a little confusing right now. In the schedule of fees, there is something that if a business is late 30 days, you do $100 late fee. If you're 60 days late, then you have to put in the reinstatement fee. So what we're recommending here is actually something that's done at the last resource where we have to, you know, months later still have to go and request for a business to do a renewal. So this is more like the last resource, the citation part of it. Yes. So that's.
Well, then I feel like. So then a few things. One, I feel like, Jimmy, I think your concern, I have less of concern for, because it sounds like people are already getting fined 100 and then 300 if they miss the first things. These just come into play when they issue a citation. So I'm less concerned about that. I do think, though, it would be, but maybe I'm still in the same place. I think our goal at the end of the day, our underlying primary goal is to get people into compliance. And I think that if we gave people a fee, a penalty holiday until this went into effect, gave them until July 1 and said all late fees on the books are going to be suspended for the next however many days until July 1st. So that you come into compliance and pay this, and give them notice that we changed the law and citations moving forward will be these higher fees, these higher penalties that we will enforce. I still think that probably makes sense. And I'm now a little less concerned, Jimmy, with your concern about MRBA being impacted because this comes in so late in the game. I think we're not really changing up front how people get penalized. So I'm a little less concerned, if that makes sense. So I think that's where my head's at. Thank you.
Perfect. I have heard Jerry, Valerie, I want to make sure to give you guys a fair opportunity. Where are you guys with it? Same, not moving forward. Where are you?
Yeah, I think Luke, I'm with you on the now that I have a better understanding of this. So I'm okay.
Valerie, thank you, Jared.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for obviously, like I said, fees, fines, it's scary, it's hard, it's difficult, business owners, the whole thing. I think that the initial recommendation from Luke about changing it so there's a 30-day period for the $500 fine, I think that's okay. If we reduce it slightly, that can be another conversation. But I think right now I'm okay with this as long as we add the 30-day period.
Okay, thank you. And just to hold on, Jimmy, and just to remind everybody, this fee structure goes into place on July 1st of this year. Just to clarify, so this is not going to happen it's happening in 2 months after. And Alma and Kamali, can you please make sure you guys put communication out that this moves forward so that way they are aware? And I think that I also heard that, council's willing to give them, what's it called? I don't know, whatever you guys want to call it, a truce period to say, come in between here and the end of July 1st, and this one, and you're fine, or whatever the right words are. Okay. So, I think that's what I said. Jimmy, this is the last round of speaking.
Yeah, I don't think there's a rush on this. I'd actually like us to, I won't be here, look at actually where this goes in the code and what I'm a little confused, and it's been clear. And it doesn't really have to be done by the budget year, but exactly which part of the code this affects and because I'm not, completely clear on what we've heard different things about when the citation, and before we do that, people should actually look at the code and where this goes, and also talk to MRBA. But, you talk about MRBA could do this and MRBA could do that. But we're trying to be a kind of an government that actually kind of helps the business and, business thriving. And, they're not the problem. We're trying to kind of, get them to, do what they can do. And I think we should just, look at it a little bit and get some more input before we do it. I don't think this is a big budgetary issue or another. So, again, if people want to go ahead, that's fine. I just think, it's worth it. We need a little bit, get some more input and then moving ahead if that's what people want to do.
So I think that we have consensus right now to move forward with this at 200 for the first offense and 500 for each day. I'm sorry, $500 for each 30 days that the evaluation continues. Am I good? Did I summarize it correctly? Luke, Jared, Valerie? Yes? Okay.
That's our consensus, may I say.
I said majority of it. Sorry, it's been a long day for me. So we have my majority to move forward. But can you put the agenda item, Melissa, to make sure the next thing that I say is correct? Thank you. So this was vote on amending the code chapter 7 license and permits infraction. So I'm gonna call for a vote. And obviously you could say no or abstain. So at this point, I'd like for you guys to make a motion with the new proposal. Luke, will you be open to making the motion since you put the language verbally together?
Sure. I move to amend the code chapter 7 licenses and permits as presented, except with the amendment that the second penalty is for $500 for every 30-day period that the permittee remains out of compliance.
All right, perfect. Any discussion? And we do have a message in the chat. Danielle Carter, 200 block of Shepherd. So the business are not paying the $50. Are they also not paying the $150 for the MRBA? Yeah. Danielle, they're charged together. So the city gives them an invoice for $200 for the small businesses. So it's not this. My understanding is, Alma, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no option for them to pay the $50 for the city and then deal with MRBA to waive them the $150. Is basically they pay the small businesses, in this case as an example, will pay the $200, correct?
Yes, so they're both included in the business application when they renew. The part of the business licensing and the CDMA fee. All
right, perfect. Thank you for the clarification, Alma. Just wanted to make sure I got that correctly. All right, so Danielle, hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, so the MBS not getting their money either. So yeah, so they're gonna have to talk to the businesses and and ask them for them to pay as well, I guess. So yeah, so definitely so if this passes, then it reinforces for the business to pay the MRBA will be getting their money. That's the good thing about it. All right, so council, any abstentions? Objections?
Did you say no's or yes?
So I said abstentions first.
Oh, that's usually the last. Okay.
Objections?
Yeah, I'd like to object and also explain my vote, if you mind for a second.
Go ahead.
I heard what I looked actually at the code, and the code doesn't really talk about last or anything. It just says a business license, and that if a person doesn't do the business license, they're going to be fined a certain amount, and this would basically increase the amount to what I think is kind of a almost punitive amount, and really won't save things. So it doesn't say anything about last chance or second chance. It just really says that if the fine isn't paid. But anyway, I made my point. I'll be quiet from now on. Thank you.
So if I can explain the process.
So I will tell you guys, is this the reason why we usually don't explain our no's? But I will give you a fair chance to go ahead and answer that, and then the vote we for. At least I want you to say your piece. Go on. Go ahead.
So the process for code compliance for any chapter, when it comes to not complying, is that we first issue a notice violation. 72 hours later, we have to issue a certified letter to the owners. 72 hours later, if they still have not complied, then we have to write a municipal infraction.
Okay.
We write the municipal infraction, it takes the inspector longer to actually write that infraction for them to come back and say, here, $25. And that's the only reason why we made that recommendation.
Okay, so thank you, Alma. Okay, so seeing that there was no abstentions, 1 no. The motion carries 4-0-1. Okay, and just to be clear, I will second it because I think that Melissa sent me a message saying, did anybody second it? I guess I did, but you guys didn't hear me, so it was second. Okay, so the motion got second. All right. So okay, thank you, Melissa. All right, moving on to the next item. I am so sorry. I could barely see. Discussion on proposed fiscal year 2024 budget. The mayor and council will have a discussion on the proposed FY 2024 budget. Okay, as you guys know, we have been having discussions about the budget. The schedule for the budget came out, Kamali around Wilson. I came out in December, November last year? Oh, Melissa.
It was in December last year.
Thank you. So in December, that days get published. We do have like one meeting for them to present it. And then we vote as mayor and council to approve the budget. So this is one of those scheduled meetings. So, and it's also been publicized all over our social media and information's been out. So I just want to make clear that this is one of those discussions that was approved back in December to have. So what we have in front of us, just to give you guys, before I give the floor to the financial advisor and the city manager, we have the changes that have been made since the last budget discussion. So the last budget discussion was on 4/14. So this is like the new version for 4/25, which is today, right? Because I see 4/21, Ron. But make sure that we put what meeting is addressed, okay? So that way, like, they could connect one and the other, okay? All right, and thank you for that. So we have asked them to make sure, thank you for making that change, to put that, if you're following in the budget, it will show what the category is, what the number is, what the description is, and in my show the department, it shows the previous amount, the first revised, second revised, third revised, and the net change. So what the amount is. So if it was originally, let's say $10, that's in a small sample, and if it got changed and now it's 5, it would show like at the end of 5. And what's highlighted is what they're gonna talk about, and every time we make any changes, they're highlighted in order for you guys to be able to, us and the community to know where those changes are being updated, made, or changed. All right, I think I covered the basics. So Ron Wilson, go ahead with the read through.
Yes, Mayor. So we have highlighted the items that have changed between the second revision and the third revision. And those are what I will highlight this evening. So in the revenue section for line 4698, we have added $100,000 to the ARPA revenue because we are going to be paying for streets and sidewalks with $100,000 of streets and sidewalks with ARPA money. In the expense section, for line 5505, we have added back the $3,000 for the city-sponsored meetings. Way back when, we originally had $5,500. We reduced it to $2,500. We've now taken it back up to $5,500. For line 5399, strategic planning, what we have done is taken this money out of the professional services line and made it its own line item. So while it's showing an increase of $21,000, that is actually offset mostly by a reduction in line 5400 professional services for $18,600.
So Ron, just one before I forget, the strategic plan wasn't just for the strategic plan, but also include the city logo added as well. So can we make sure we add that to make sure it's not sidetracked, because the original this year, yeah, do you remember correctly, Mr. Kamali? This year what we did is like, instead of doing a separate line item, we had to do a strategic plan with the addition of the, a competition for the new city logo, because right now we have 5 of them flowing around, but it's going to be composed as part of it. That's the reason why we added a little bit more extra money to the line item, correct?
Yes, Mayor, I'm sorry, we did include the logo too, but we're going to add the logo to the line item 5399. That's fine.
So that when we're doing that, we are aware that this is part of like what we're looking at with the new strategic plan, that goes on it. So that was it's a combined, it's combined, but it's there.
No problem. We'll do that.
And line 5400 professional services is being reduced by 18,600. This is most of what we need for the strategic planning line of 21,000. Next is line 5558, Community Development Corp Gateway. In the last meeting, the City Council decided to pay for this with operating funds. And it's been added to the budget. The plan is to give Gateway $50,000 in July of 23, and another $50,000 in June of 24. Both of those payments would be in fiscal 24, and that's why we've budgeted for $100,000.
Okay.
And then line 5597, ARPA expense. This we have increased that by $100,000. That's for the sidewalks, and that is what's offsetting the revenue in the top section of $100,000. Then line 5230, street and sidewalk repair. We are reducing that by $100,000. That's the $100,000 that has been moved over to ARPA. And then finally, line 5598, contingency. To make all the other changes happen, we have reduced the contingency line by $5,400. So total revenue and total expenses have changed by $100,000 each, and the budget impact is a net zero.
Okay, so to be clear, Ron and Kamali, make sure I'm saying this correctly. We have moved line items between the budget, but we have not increased the amount of the budget, correct? Because that was a question I didn't ask me. I said, no, we've been moving it around, but within the same parameters that we originally talked.
That is correct. What we have done is we have moved some operating expense to ARPA in order to make room for the gateway. And then we have made some small adjustments in some operating expense lines, but they net to zero.
Which is the contingency line item.
All right. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure it's clear, because I think that when we see money moving up and down, sometimes it leads to believe that we're throwing more money at budget, and it's not. We've been moving between line items. That's something I said, but it definitely is good for them to hear in record that this is what you guys are also that we're all saying the same. Exactly. This is the reality of it. So thank you guys so much, and thank you for you guys for taking the work and stuff like that. And to the community, one thing to point out as well is, although you're seeing it like this in a document, we have asked the team to do it like that, summarize, to make it easier for all of us to follow through. But once the final budget is there, this is what the final numbers are going to be reflected with the notes under the summaries. How do you call it? That this is what we have allocated X some, 100,000 for street and sidewalks and a sample. So that way it does not give the impression to residents or 20 years from now that we utilize less money for street and sidewalk, because it's not the case, right? So I want to make sure that's important, why we wanted to make sure description is there. Because as we go to, once we go to FY25 or FY27 to be more precise, right? And we need to move the line item up in money. That's the reason why you might be able to see a difference in amount. It might look like let's say if we do not longer use ARPA money, it might look like an $100,000 jump. But in reality, it'll be based on the fact that ARPA may not be used, but this is what is was being used as a percentage of the budget. So just making sure that is clear. Okay, Constance, I'm gonna open up the floor, and I do have 2 questions that I need to address that I don't see here. All right, Constance, I'm gonna start with Ward 2 this time since I started with Ward 1. We're gonna go with Valerie, Jared, Jimmy, Luke.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody for working through this budget. I know it's been a process, but we're nearly there, and I think we're going to have a fantastic FY24. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared.
Yep. Just want to echo Valerie's thoughts. Thanks everyone for your hard work on this. And I appreciate getting this across the line. Just a comment, it's not a disagreement with this approach. I agree with us moving 100K of streets and sidewalks to ARPA. Just wanted to remind folks, if we do end up with some federal awards, we can't match ARPA money with a federal award if we need to bring local match. But we can certainly cross that bridge when we come to it, if we're fortunate enough to be awarded federal funds. Thanks.
SS4A.
So Jared, I want to make sure that I don't lose that thought. Kamali and Ron, okay, I want to make sure it's clear to people that we're not only using 100,000 for street and sidewalks. They're a lot more expensive than that. I wish. How much money is currently in the budget for street and sidewalks? Is it 300? What was it? Can you guys give me the amount?
Is it $631,000?
Okay, so we do
plus 85,000 for traffic calming devices, which comes up to 700,031, if I'm not mistaken.
So to Jared's point, we have 7,000. What was it, Mr. Kamali?
731,000.
731,000 to match from our own city money, in case we go after money. Okay. Exactly. So I want to make sure that is clear, because that definitely was a concern, and thank you for addressing it, Jared. And
I did want to say, if we win, we can also stretch that match. Let's say we're successful in winning a grant, we can certainly stretch that match over multiple fiscal years too. So it doesn't just have to be next year's money.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So no, thank you for putting, making sure we are aware of that, because all those little things do make a sense when we make decision, because we put, let's say, an example, everything in ARPA, then we can do nothing about it. So all the great efforts you guys are working on, we're working on, it will have meant for nothing, because it'll be like, what are you guys matching it with? And we're like, oh, federal funds. No way, you can do that. All right, but thank you for putting that to our attention. Okay, so I had Jimmy, Luke, go ahead. Jimmy, if you're
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have nothing to add.
Luke.
Melissa, can you scroll down a little bit, please? Okay. Thank you. No, I'm all good with this. I have one suggestion about the consolidating the line items around streets and traffic calming and street resurfacing, but Mayor, whenever you want me to talk about that, I'm happy to do so.
So let's deal with just what we kind of have in front of us, and then the other two topics, I think, is going to be that and salaries. I just want to break them down so we could at least figure out where we're moving through and not get them all crumbled together. Does that work? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with what's here. Thank you.
Okay, so I do have one thing I need to add. I did send an email out regarding the rent stabilization funding. Once we got the numbers back, they were a bit different. So I did suggest for the number to be dropped in order for us to not get into a situation where we in red, right, if we do not get that funding. So I have requested to between $10,000 and $20,000 for the line item to be dropped. The Ron Wilson's recommendation was between 7,500 and 10,000. I'm fine with dropping 10,000. The reason why mainly is because we're aiming at half a year doing this, but if the CPI is not done, it's not given in January, we might have to implement a little bit later. But I leave it up to you guys, but I'd rather drop it down $10,000 more. And if we get more, then great. Where I'd rather be over than fall short and have that as a red line item. And so that's one of the things in front of me right now that I definitely would request for us to change before we enter to the other discussions. So Council, I need to know where you're at.
I think that sounds okay to me. I don't know, as long as it works in the budget, I think it's fine.
Okay, Jared?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, perfect. Luke?
So how much would it drop again? What was the total? Was it like
10.
10, yeah. And then that would just come out of contingency then?
No, that will go down, not up. So that will be removed from the budget. So the budget will be like $10,000 less. That's basically it.
Oh, it would be less of an expense.
That's an income.
Less of an income. So we'd have to drop expenses by 10,000. So my thinking was then we would just drop the contingency by 10,000 in order to afford it.
Ron, would
Yes,
that be
I'm
it?
sorry, Mayor.
Or you just
Mayor,
like remove the bottom line? Go ahead, Kamali.
Yeah. In order to balance the budget, definitely Luke is correct. And we have to, because right now we got $67,000 in rent to stabilization. So if you want to go down 10,000, we have to get 10,000 from the contingency line item and balance the budget. Ron, am I correct?
That's correct. Or some other expense.
Yeah, other expense.
Some expense needs to be dropped by $10,000.
Which I don't see any other expenses. We can, drop it down another $10,000.
I just don't see it. I mean, yeah, it'll have to be the contingency. I just don't want to overshoot and then we're in red and then we're going to have to pass money anyways. Yep. So I'd rather make it low and we have better chance to go over than go under. And I want to make sure we give it a fair shot. That's the reason why.
Okay.
I'm good with that. And then just taking the contingency down by 10,000 to make it balance.
Okay. Jimmy?
That's fine.
All right. Oh, sorry. I'm giving you guys this big thank you and it's muted. I apologize. No, thank you guys for your diligence and patience as we go through every single one of this. It's, the budget, it's a lot of little line items and overall a lot of it, most of it, between salary and things that we compromise ourselves to do, right? Is work that is tedious. And I know we do a lot of the heavy lifting. Like we do some of the lifting when it comes to passing the budget, and then you guys have to do monthly and weekly and daily follow-ups on the budget that we approve. So I definitely want to make sure to thank you guys for doing that work as well, and for making sure that we give you various things and opinions, and you guys have basically been changing as we gone and adjusting as we needed you to. So thank you for being also very flexible with that. Okay. All right. So we're going to open up the second part. Luke, go ahead. Why? We're so close.
Thanks. So in our budget currently, there's a line item for streets and sidewalks. That's 500,000. I think there's a line item for street resurfacing that is 130,000.
No.
121,000.
121,000.
121. And then there's a line item for traffic calming at 85,000. And the thinking is that we'd have this much money for street resurfacing, this much money for other streets and sidewalks, this much money for traffic calming. I think there's a problem with putting those improvements into three different buckets, in that when we get the study done from tool design, They may say, do Arundel Road and do street resurfacing, traffic calming, whatever else. Do 31st Street and have it be all this. And how that all mixes together between traffic calming, resurfacing, streets and sidewalks, we don't know what the price is. So I don't think we want to box ourselves into 3 different buckets at costs when we don't actually know what the cost of the streets and sidewalk study will be, which will include all 3 aspects of that. And so I think it would be easier for us in the long run and smarter to just put it all in one bucket of streets and sidewalks, which incorporates traffic calming, because we could want to just do we could end up wanting to do traffic calming where the residents have asked for it on 31st Taylor, which doesn't cost a lot of money, but do a bigger project here, or it could depend on how much money we get from the Fed. So I just think that in order to provide us with the most flexibility down the line, we just put it in one line item, consolidate it all. So you'd have 500 plus 121 plus 85, all in just whatever that equals, 621 plus 85. So about, $800,000 you would have in a line item there. It would actually only be 700 because you've moved 100 to ARPA, but I think you guys understand it. So that's my proposal. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Luke. I will say to you the reason why I want it separately is because we do have a lot of people doing petitions and feeling like they're not being heard, right? So to me, it's important for those buckets to be separated so that way they understand that, yes, this is a priority for us and this is the money that we put aside to start working on that. And I think that if you marry it all together, yeah, you could give them a report later, but what they see in front of them is like that you might prioritize something else over what is important to them. And at the end, if you're showing them the street, let's give you an example, and this is not even on the list, Perry, how do you call it, from 37 to 36 between, the bump outs, this is when a cost is going to come out of this 4 budgets, right? At least it shows that it's important to us in the budget to separate them as such. At the end of the day, Mr. Kamali, Rocio will be able to have the flexibility to pick from each of the budgets. And if a tree needs to be planned, they could utilize the tree planning line item. If whatever needs to go on, they could go across and do whatever they need to. So if to me, it's that's the reason why I think it's important to separate them. So that way it also keeps track. That's why being very much into pushing to put information forward, because I don't want, when we're far away and gone, vacationing somewhere else, for people to say oh no, this is not, the efforts that were made, or this line item doesn't reflect. And that's where we get ourselves sometimes in trouble. And that's what some people see hey, there's a big jump in line items. And the reality is it's not that they've been a big jump, sometimes they're consolidated, but it does not reflect clearly the various things that we're doing. So this one is letting them know these 3 facets of this project are important and we're going to work on it. And if we need to move a little here or there to do what we need to do, it could be done. But that's why I don't see it a big deal to put them all into one budget. At the end of the day, if we do need to do the match, Mr. Kamali could say here's the match for ABC, right? Or our team. How do you call it? I could say this is a proposal for this street, blah, 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 and this is going to cost, and this is where the line item budgets come directly. So that way it gives it a little bit of a fine strain of saying this is the dumb budget and we're going to pull stuff out of there. But, Kamali, I do see your hand. I do counsel anything else, but go ahead, Mr. Kamali.
No, I do appreciate your recommendation on Luke, but I think Luke has some point over here, because once we get the deliverable from tool design, it's not really, separated each item. Luke is right. So, but what we can do, we can put it into one line item and put a note over there, $121,000 for the resurfacing, $85,000 for traffic calming devices, and $500,000 for the street and sidewalk. Then I, as a city manager, and Rocio as a city director of public works, we know how much budget we have. So I think it'll be easier from the accounting point of view to have one line item and have those invoices to be deducted for that line item. I'm just, that's my 2 cents.
Council, I'm gonna open up the floor to you to figure out like what is it that you guys want. So Jimmy, you go first. Valerie, Jared.
You're on mute.
You're muted, Jimmy. Jimmy?
I'm sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. I'll pass and listen to what other people are saying before I come. Thank you. A lot of forcing to tell you I'll pass.
All right. Go ahead, next, Council Member.
Yeah, thank you. I hear both sides. I think it makes sense to have it all in one place and then segment it out underneath that, because I think it is going to be, street and sidewalk repairs. It's like that. It's infrastructure of our roads and areas and trails and people. And so I think that there will be overlap in a lot of ways. Like when we're working on, say, 33rd Street, and and there's a bump out for the sidewalk plus a traffic calming device plus an extra crosswalk or something. I don't know, but I feel like that kind of work would be good to have under one heading if we can, and then have it broken out underneath. But I hear Selena's point in saying, these are, budget is your priority as a council, and so having it very clear to residents, this is what we're spending money on, this is what our priorities are. I think that is also very important. So, I think, Mr. Kamal, your idea of having one line item where it's then broken out underneath it, I think we do that in a number of other places, right? With like community supported activities, you have the line items underneath the heading, which is, infrastructure of roads, sidewalks, trees, so I think that does make sense. So, but I will leave it to others to address as well.
Jared? Thank you, Valerie.
Yep. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I very much get your, the point you're making, Selena. We need to demonstrate to folks like that we are setting aside money. I think we're all aware sometimes when we set aside a large block of money, we have intents for specific segments of it. That sometimes folks kind of just read the top line and don't see everything, and so it is helpful to break it out. I also do agree that small city, we shouldn't create additional unnecessary administrative steps for ourselves. So I with Valerie here on liking the approach that Mr. Kamali suggested.
Okay. Jimmy, you want to say something, or I have something to say? Go ahead.
I don't have anything to add.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'll tell you this, Mr. Kamali. I think that basically comes down to the same thing I'm asking. If you put like infrastructure, you still have to give them line items. So whatever it is to put them underneath. So the structure in the budget will change. You pull it out on its own line item and subline it, kind of so we have like, for committee, you have committees and they all have their line item underneath to figure out like how much money on it. I'm fine with that approach, but I want to make sure I think you read it correctly, Valerie and Jared. It's more like to show the community, yes, it's important. We're listening to you. Here's the amount that is there, right? Because we're often accused that we don't listen, and we're often accused that we do not, we don't make that budget friendly enough for other people to read it. And the reality is like right now we're all immersed on it. And on, next March, we're going to be like, remember the line item, Mr. Kamali, what was it? Right now, you could probably dictate line items like at the top of your head, but 3 months from now, it's like, the job of Kamali and Ron and the various department heads to figure out what the line item is, where they take the money. So at the end, they're taking money out of line items. I don't see a problem with it. So I'm fine with putting a title that says infrastructure money and then doing the 3 line items underneath, which with all their numbers, so that we have it correct. The other thing, Kamali and Ron, please help me with this. I know we are, requesting money for the infrastructure, but this money that we're also talking about is not just for the infrastructure bill that we're requesting, but also it includes stuff that we need to fix and repairs that we need to make on roads that are not considered as part of the project, correct? So that's the reason why I want to make sure we do not think that all that money, every single one of that single dollars for that, because right now, if there's a pothole like on X Street, on July 1st, there's a pothole in that street. This is the money that they're going to be utilizing as well to be able to fix that pot. So all that money is not just for the infrastructure grant that we're going to be requesting, or if anything else happens. I want to make sure, that's the reason why I want to make sure that it's clear that that's the money that our Department of Public Works will go and get fixed. And as we have seen, between the winter and the summer and the rainy season, we get a lot of streets that need extra work. And I just want to make sure it is clear that that money is not put aside $700 and something just for the infrastructure money, matching and stuff. This money is also included in the repairs that are going to be made in the city when they do their walkthroughs and that they do every season, to make sure that the holes, the patches, the cracks, and stuff like that they need to fix need to come out of the funding. So just be fully aware of it. So that's the reason why I'm not pull it all in one bucket, because other stuff are going to be utilized for the money as well. Okay. So
I just
go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to, let you know that we got $121,000 for the resurfacing. So I want to make sure that definitely the Prairie Street is going to be fixed, and make sure that we're going to take care of the rest of the streets that we have a list for that. And then we have $85,000 in traffic calming devices. And also we have $500,000 in the street and sidewalk. Definitely, we're going to respect that. And I wanted you to, feel confident that we're going to take care of those potholes.
So
Definitely.
I'm confident, Mr. Kamali. I just want to make sure that it's easy enough for the public to read it so that we're all on the same page. And that's my thing. I think you guys do a lot of work. And if we could take care of this up front, it will avoid for us to be able, we could direct them directly and be like, this is the investment on it, because I was very well thought, your budget basically shows your priority for the city, and the easier you're able to read it and somebody picked it up, the better it is for you. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
I guess it sounds like we're going to have an infrastructure line and sublines number underneath it. So that way we could divide what the money looks like. So that way we know where it's going. I think that's overall what the majority I heard. Luke, do you have anything to moving on?
Yeah, I totally disagree. I don't know why you would create a line item that then just says you have 121,000 for street resurfacing, 85,000 for traffic calming, 500,000 for streets and sidewalks. It sort of defeats the purpose of the intent of my proposal. So I do not agree with that. I think it should all be in one line item. We can call it streets and sidewalks. We can put parens, traffic calming, street resurfacing, repairs, whatever to encompass it all. I just think, I don't know that we need $85,000 for traffic calming. We may need 20,000. We may need 150,000. I don't know. And I don't want to have to deal with budget amendments later because we pigeonholed ourselves into figures when we didn't know what those figures meant. I want to do traffic calming at all the locations that residents have said they wanted it. I want to do street resurfacing where it's needed. I want to fix potholes. I want to do that all, but no one's showing me what the costs of those are. And we have a study outstanding to tell us where those should be and what those traffic calming tools should be and everything else. And so I just think it's smarter for us to have it all in one line item called streets and sidewalks, parenthetical, street repair, traffic calming, whatever. That's my proposal. Thanks.
I don't know, guys. I'm hearing that you guys were fine with Mr. Kamali's suggestion. That's basically what I heard. There's at least 3 of us that are fine with it. You guys could change your mind, but I also know from talking to Mr. Kamali centuries ago, and this might have changed Mr. Kamali, that when you go over and talk to the contractor when it comes to the work that's going to be done this year, it's usually easier for him to say we have so many mileage to work done, and that's how they more or less price it, then be like, we have an unassigned amount, and if you could give us your best price. But I think this is a way to marry it a little bit, Luke, because it'll be under that heading, and they will separate it under like sub numbers. That's what they're saying they will do. So this, we do. I don't want people to think that it's like errors that are found in the budget. The reason why we do budget amendments, because we need to readjust some things. So we usually do about 2 to 3, sometimes 4 a year. But overall, it's mainly to be able. So when the study comes out, we have enough money to like move it, especially if we're doing matching. And if we see the study needs, more money in certain areas, then we just adjust it. We have literally like no meetings during the summer schedule. So if the study is going to be finished on June 30, am I correct? If the study is supposed to finish out like, in June, right? It gives us enough time to make any adjustment if we need to, like on the 2nd, if we choose to. That might mean either A, decide to do it in this year or in multiple years, like Jared was mentioning, on what we're going to address and tackle. Because the study might show that it's a lot more money that we put on it, and we're still going to have to do a budget amendment to try to put some money there. Or, do what we did with the tool this time, break it out into 5 years and put the money on it. But I thought this was like an even feel to do it that way, so that way marries both of our ideas, and I'm fine with that. But if you're, I don't know what to tell you. But Jared, I see your mic open. Do you want to say something or no? Where are you?
No, I'm good.
You were just testing me to see if I saw your mic open. All right. So I think that at this point, just can we do that? It sounds like we're fine with doing the category, the subcategories in the bottom. So at least we have some strong momentum for it. So that way it will ease it off. Okay. All right. Nina, have a message. Can you put your I see your name. Can you put your block number on it as well? Luke, do you have a twin brother? So it says Kamali, actually say, thank you. 2900 Upshur Street in a Young. Mr. Kamali and Congressman Luke approach with Luke is like, who are you talking about? Talking about you, Luke. Councilmember Luke's approach with one line item, you give yourself flexibility to address the issues in the roads and sidewalk survey, and also designating more funds for traffic calming device or the issue that are identified by the survey. You will avoid doing transfer budget amendments later. You don't need sublines you can address. If we need more money for those items, we're going to have to do a budget amendment because that is where the money caps. So we won't be able to, if we decide to do more with that. So Nina, so if more money is required than when we have put even or combined, we will have to do a budget amendment no matter what. But once again, we could do that whole study. That doesn't mean that we have to do every single item in the 1 year, but we might have to split it into multiple years if it's more than we could utilize. If now we have to cut other items in the budget to be able to move money. And that's where it becomes a little complicated because you're talking about programming that will have to be cut of money to the committees as an example to be able to move it into the line item. That's the reason why we're also being very careful because if you only have so much money, right? And that's the decisions that you need to make overall. I thought, Mr. Kamali, did I saw your hand off on? I'm not sure. I don't want to.
No, I just want to make sure that, Mayor, I'm sorry. Yes, my hand was up and I was trying to, just make sure that everybody understands me. I do agree with Luke to have one line item. Then we can do at the bottom of that page for the Department of Public Works, put a star over there and says that this money, this line item, 700,000 and something, it's going to include 121 for the resurfacing, 85,000 for traffic calming devices, and then $500,000 for street and sidewalk. I think, I just want to make sure that everybody understands what I was trying to say. That's all.
So, Mr. Kamali, yeah, I think we all understand big category and subcategories depicting what the amount is. And I think that far, it sounds like majority of us are fine with that. right? So that will help. And if we need to do it, budget
I
amendment.
don't think you've heard from me, Mayor. Have you?
Go ahead. Jimmy, go ahead.
I mean, Luke, how do you respond to that? I mean, the flexibility. The amounts, or what are you actually proposing? So what you say makes sense, and committing to those numbers, Mr. Kamado, make a lot of sense to me since it's flexible. And you might include, including those kind of topics, but actually these specific dollar amounts. Luke's idea of 700,000, and then says for those four things makes more sense than kind of nailing down the exact amount of money for this, exact amount of money for that. So, I'm somewhat, it makes some sense on that way, because you may, given what the report says, you may want to, move it around, or we may want to move it around depending on that. How do you respond to that? I guess is what I like to say.
So I would not call out how much money you're doing to traffic calming, how much money you're doing to resurfacing. I would have the line item say streets and sidewalks, parenthetical, traffic calming, common repairs, resurfacing, etc., and a parenthetical. And then I would just have it for the 700,000 we have in there. And then whatever we want to do, knowing that we're going to do some traffic calming, knowing that we're going to have to do some common repairs, knowing that we're going to have to do resurfacing, we can do it amidst that. If we put in the budget 85,000 for traffic calming, 120,000 for resurfacing, then I understand Selena's point that we're not stuck with that. We can change that over time, but I just don't know why we would force ourselves to have to do the work of changing that over time. I would like for us to be able to go to contractors and say, look, we want to do this project. It includes these things. Give us your lowest bid. And then we can do Harry Street, which will be a combination of resurfacing and I'm sure traffic calming, or 31st Street, where a lot of residents ask for traffic calming, but there could be other repairs there, or Arundel Road, wherever it is we want to do it. We could sort of mix and match. We wouldn't have to come back to a budget amendment. So I just don't like tying figures, because we don't know what those figures are. We're just guessing. And I just think that's a poor way to do budgeting. Thanks.
So, but Luke, the whole budget is an educated guess. That's the reality of it.
But we don't even, this is
like.
Not
that budget will be like, Mr. Kamali, here's $8 million and spend it in anything that you want. And let's put one big on it. So it's also not fair to say, because this educated guess they're having, but if something comes out, like, when we had COVID, right? All those numbers went flying out the wall.
But Selena, this isn't like even an educated guess. We're not even saying to ourselves, $121,000 is the cost of project A, B, and C is the estimated, is our educational guess of projects A, B, and C. We're just picking a number. We don't even know. It's not even an educated guess. We don't even know what underlying projects A, B, and C are and what their costs would be. We have no idea what $85,000 is buying us or where. We don't know what the traffic calming projects are. We have it's not even an educational guess. It's just, so I just think that's not.
I would say to you that I call it educated guess because our city manager was the former public works director. So more or less he has an estimate of what potentially things are in the city that are needed, and more or less what some of the studies will look like. So it wasn't like he just woke up one day and Ron Wilson and Kamali said, we like the number 27,000. Let's throw it in there. He's been doing this for quite a year. So, he estimated based on the stuff that, quite of the petitions have been around. So it's not like we don't know which of the petitions have been hit. And also he knows like what streets are continuing going on. Right. But that's the reason why I feel comfortable with the numbers. And if they have to change and adjust, then they'll change and adjust. But the way I see it is like he has more of a pulse of potentially what's out there or what will certain things will cost. And that's what the numbers came on. They didn't just like said 27 looks like a good number. Let me throw it in there. He had it to base himself on what his knowledge is to put a number in front of us. Right. So I will say just that. But I definitely don't want to just dismiss the fact that, this is not like that they do not, the team does, and I'll tell you this, they're doing their best educated guess based on the information they know or they believe in order to put a budget in front of us with the numbers they're aiming at. That's how the budget is created. Does that means that if later on, like, water storm management, one tree no longer worth $50, it goes up to $150. They did their best guess based it on what, today and forecasting for what the next year look like. That's basically what the budget is overall, that we know that $100 is going to be used exactly. We estimate that that's what it is. And then if we need to adjust, we adjust. So that does not negate what you're saying, Luke, but I just want to make sure that we are clear that that's what a budget is. Yes, there are different line items. And at the end, Mr. Kamali could say, you know what? We utilize a lot less because we got a bunch of grants on something, right? And how do you call it? It allows for them to be able to say, like, he could easily, think like, hey, we got to, as an example, like the police department, if they get like, computers, laptops to be able to pay for like 10 computers, right? Based on today, and the budget says these are the computers that we need, that money going to do it. And that will change, but something else might go up, and Mr. Kamali might say, council, I want to come to you guys to move that money for something else because we no longer use it there, right? So that's what more or less it is. But I'll stay quiet, and Valerie, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And Luke, I appreciate you bringing this up. I think being able to, and I think, just going forward as a city, we should really look at our budget and line items and clean it up as much as possible going forward, keep making sure that we're giving ourselves enough flexibility, but enough rigidity to make sure that we're keeping track on the budget, but also, that we can be a little bit flexible sometimes in certain areas like this. I have one question really quick, Mr. Kamali, and this is just a question. I don't know. I mean,
sure.
In terms of leveraging grant funds, is it easier to leverage grant funds when you say, well, my city council only gave me $85,000 for traffic calming, and really it's going to cost $70 billion? Is it, because, like if we combine all of these things into one line item, that then explains we're going to be taking some funding for traffic calming, some for trees, or some for resurfacing or whatever. Is it, that might be a bigger number then, right? Because then you're going to say I have like $750 million, and that's not as attractive potentially to grant funding operations. And then just ask that question just to see what your thoughts are on it. Thank you.
No, exactly. You're correct, because that could be more than that. But right now, Tool Design has done a study for us in 2017. And right now, we're just putting 5% of the improvement each year, because we're looking at $500,000 for each sidewalk improvement in every budget that we have had since 2019, I believe, or 18. But looking at street resurfacing, we do have a proposal from Pavement Corporation that first they gave us a proposal for $200,000. Then we reduced it to $121 because we want to make sure that we can afford it and we can stay in line with our budget. And the traffic calming devices, Luke is right, because I don't really know at this point, but I am hoping that if the locations, we have few locations and few petitions that the residents are requesting, like it's Newton Street, 31st by the park, and also on Bunker Hill and 36. There could be some more, but I have some kind of estimate, as Mayor said, because I've been doing a lot of speed bumps in the city. So that's why I feel comfortable with $85,000. But Luke is right. We can put all in one pot and then, use it as much as possible. So that's my position. But I think, whatever you council want to do, I do appreciate, we'll take it as you direct me to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Thank you, Valerie, for your question. I would do say that, yeah, he could say that. He could also say these three line items with a total of this are for the purpose. That's not going to negate the point of it, because that's what the point. That's the reason why the line items are there. He could say these 4 line items totaling this overall are being done for this purpose. So it doesn't negate the way they are. It will not affect him getting the grant, because that's the sum of all of them. It shows what he's aiming at it. And I did know that they were doing studies and things like that, because I remember having that conversation. He has brought it up also in various meetings before, how they're doing work to address the costs. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I would go with Mr. Kamali. Mr. Kamali and Mr. Wilson recommendations. I'm sympathetic to what Luke is saying, but I've heard you say both things, and whatever you recommend, you're the one who has to administer the budget. You're the one who has to figure that out, you and the CEO. So do you want to make it like one item and, with all these things topic, or do you want to specify the 4 items? So I would go with which one you have. So I'm looking for you to make a recommendation one way or another. And then, we may not still majority council, but I'm not sure exactly what you're recommending. It's all right. You can.
Should I respond, Mayor?
Yeah, the floor is yours, Mr. Kamali.
I do want to put it in one line item, but I know how much I have in that, which is a total of 706. And I think, somehow Luke is right, because when we get the study from tool design, it could be a resurfacing, it could be a bump out, it could be speed tables. So it could be a combination of traffic calming devices, it could be a resurfacing, and it could be a sidewalk improvements. So I think, if I know how much budget I have, and definitely I know what Mary is trying to say, we do have some street that we do have to take care of it. And that's why I'm asking for $121,000 on that regard. But I want to make sure that all the streets are being taken care of. So if we put all in one item, I guarantee you, I'll manage it, properly.
Thank you. And Mr. Kamali, I want to make sure it's clear. It's not saying that you're not going to manage it correctly, but to me, if the study shows that these 4 items are going to come through, I have seen you work parallelly on doing the various things at it. And that's what I want to make sure happens. Because if I go to the residents and say, you know what, we're spending most of the money on resurfacing, not this and that, they're definitely going to be asking where was the money for us to do traffic calming, and why are we absorbing that money to something else? So at least that if the decision comes to me, if it's separately at this point, it will guarantee that collectively we're working on that point, instead of throwing it in and it becomes one item and completely dismiss on it. So like I said, your point about you have the money to utilize to do that work, it's there. That money is not being reduced. I want to make sure that's clear. Nobody's asking for the money to move. I think we all agree we want that money there. And we're not asking for it to be reduced. It's mainly leave it. Basically at this point is leave it how it is in the budget. You still have access to and put it on the grants that you're going to utilize this money. If you come back and say, you know what, this is the 4 things that tool design has agreed on that we need to do, right? And it shows A, B, C, and G. You could move parallelly with them to make sure they're all addressed, but at the same time make sure that they are addressed, cohesively. So that's why I don't think to me it's just more like letting the community know that this is important. That's why it's there. That's what originally I was fine with the big heading. You know how you go expense and then you have the sub lines on it, so that way you're more. That's what I was open to move from what I asked, right, to leave as is, to move towards that one, so that way you still have some flexibility, but then you still have it lined up based on the the educated guess of you men. But I'll tell you guys this. Even if you put it in the pot, it sounds very much like there's a missing item. We don't know 100%, but that is part of my concern, that I don't want to be that item to absorb that whole entire money, that the other items are also taken into account, and for us to be able to have that conversation. So that way it's another way for us to communicate with the community about what we're looking and why we're doing the things. So that's the reason why I was fine. Okay, put the subcategories on it, so that way we have at least a line of thought. And then when we talk about like, okay, the plan has X amount of, on my phone died.
Did we lose Mayor? And guys, if you want to go ahead and make it separate, like, don't like let me get in your way. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, just if that's easier for you, come on. It's not a big deal one way or another. Just let's look.
Maybe Jimmy, it'll be easier to have in one item, even for the accounting point of view. It's easier. Always, I can refer to that line item, whether it is resurfacing, sidewalk improvements, or traffic calming devices.
So the question is, recommendation, do you agree with Luke that it did not be specified? Okay, well then I would go Luke's recommendation. That's what your recommendation is.
Just make it one line item. At the bottom of that page on the Department of Public Works, we can put a notation that this money includes this much for each item. That's my suggestion. But I think once you put it in one item, I can manage it better. To be honest with you, it's easier for us.
I think, Mr. Kamali, I think the point is, if you say it's going to be this much money for something and this much money for that and this much money for that, it defeats the purpose of putting it in one line item. Like, that's not really. So I think, and it doesn't matter. Like what I'm trying
to say, look, there is a cap. Like, if I need to spend, I know that already the council are putting $500,000 for the street and sidewalk. So the sidewalks needs the repair. That's fine. But when we go to the street resurfacing, I definitely need some money, because I have received the recommendation from Public Works Director. She's been receiving so many emails from the residents that they need us to fix those streets. So that's what I'm trying to say, but it's not going to be 121 exact. It could go up and, it could be more or less, but it is good to put it in one item as a street and sidewalk upgrades. And then I can manage it, properly.
Okay, so council, I apologize, my phone.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, my phone died. I'm connected to my computer now, and I'll probably jump back and forward because my computer's down. Like I said, sorry guys, it's been a very long day. See, can we make a note on the line item that says the estimate of expense of each? Yeah, Valerie, I think that was basically the more or less Mario, the idea to create, like, you see how it says right here, expense, and they create like the subcategories to figure out what it is. I think, you guys, I need to hear where you guys are at, because I'm hearing very much consensus, not majority, consensus to do the subline items, and then we'll revisit. The reality is that even if we do it like that, let's get, I will say, once the study comes in and the bids go out, we'll have more, or when the study comes out, we'll have more or less an understanding of what it looks like for the unknowns. But at this point, I think the city manager has explained that he has some educated guess based it on some of the information that he has. And that's the reason why he's comfortable with doing the subcategories. So we could do it like that. And if we decide to do a budget amendment to change it, that we could have that information later. So Danielle Carr, 3200 block of Shepherd. So adding into one line and noting to include the streets and speed or not will not be possible, or has to be labeled streets and sidewalks. Can you just not relabel the line item to include all items the money is yours for? That's what we're discussing, Danielle, like how to go about it. So at this point, it looks like there's consensus to put one big line item and then do subcategories on it, so that way we know more or less where we're at. And once the study is done, Mr. Kamali could go and Rocio could go out there and get the estimate to what it looks like to figure out if it's going to be tackled in, one budget cycle, 2 budget cycles, 3 budget cycles, right? So that is that's kind of more or less where where we're at. So if at least consensus has been reached to do it that way, let's just move on. And once the study, because I'll tell you guys this, the study could come back. It's going to come in June. We're going to have to revisit it and figure out what we're going to do with it, right? And the study might show that we need $1 more there, $1 there. And it might show we just need money, period. But that way, like, we'll cross the fence where we're at. Right now, we have good estimates. And once the study comes, we could cross that bridge. So maybe this conversation is ahead of its time, maybe, right? Once the study comes, we'll figure out what it looks like and what are we going to tackle, right? And what recommendation Kamali Rocio gives us when it comes to like what could be possible to do with how the funding looks like, and also as we've asked before in previous years, the priorities for those projects, because that's what helped in the last 5 years, like prioritize them to get them through, and we were able to move very funding. And I'm hoping we get infrastructure money, so the matching will be the least of our concerns because we have some money there. And hopefully we'll get all the money we can, so that way we don't have to worry too much about what it looks like. All right. Jimmy, Kamal?
Yeah, I would just, we only have consensus as this. Everybody agrees, and everybody hasn't agreed. So I would just ask Luca if he would withdraw his proposal and just, do the subcategories and you deal with it. Just
move on. Yep, I'm fine. Just move on. I'm fine with what you guys want. Thanks.
Okay. Now we have consensus.
I'm sorry. I'm not using. I apologize. My words are not coming together clearly. My apologies for that. Thank you for clarifying that one, Jimmy. So we're going to have this discussion no matter what in the next upcoming year, once we get the study in front of us to figure out what we're going to tackle and what the funding is going to look like as well. Okay. So for the residents and the rest of us, this discussion, what it looks like and what priorities are and where we need to move money more up or down, or if we need to add more money to the spot. Ideally, we get all the matching in the world that we can afford, and this discussion will end up being mute. All right. So, council. I need to stop saying we have. I think we have reached an understanding. And I apologize. My brain is thinking in like 4 languages right now. This is what happens when you're communicating with people in multiple languages. So, Vice Mayor, I'm going to need your help. All right. Okay, guys. So that was one part of it. The other part that we had pending was the salaries. And before we move to this, sorry, my apology, not the salaries. Oops. Let me backtrack. You guys are looking at me like that's not it. It was the COLA proposals. That's what we had discussed, right? And just a point of information for all of us, and please let me know if we are out of the same page, Vice Mayor, any of the council members as well. Aside from that, was there anything else we needed to touch? Or that was the last point we're working on? Jared? Jimmy, Valerie, or where are we? That was the last one.
Nothing else except for the salaries. Move on.
Yeah.
The COLA, for the COLA specifically, not the salaries, COLA. Because the salaries, we're not, Kamali, we're not doing salaries.
Okay,
it's the COLA, right? Kamali's like, no, like I'm not. Yeah, just the COLAs, right? That yes. I think that. Thank you. So the reason why I say this is like if we reach majority or consensus today, this budget will be like clear up enough for us to vote in the next meeting. And the next meeting is May 2nd, Mr. Kamali?
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor.
Okay. So
May
I
2nd.
just wanted, because we had agreed that that we will have 7 days in between our clean version, and voting for the budget. So it'll be up for so first reading already happened, and obviously we continue doing the reading amendments. So all of that has happened, so the vote could come on how do you call it, on the 2nd, correct? All right, Melissa, am I missing something?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Okay, so just to backtrack a little bit, so we're all starting from the same line. We had reached consensus, 100% consensus, that everybody was going to get the 3% at least, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
That was done. And the 3% for everybody's already part of this budget, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
Taking into account. All right. So I want to make sure that we start there. I know there were a couple proposals that were put in place, and Council, please correct me if I'm wrong, right? One of them was adding an additional, I'm gonna break it down so we know how far. So an additional to everybody, an additional to just the 45, or break the pots into like the various departments or what it looked like. I think more or less those are the three that we had talked about, right? And so those are the three that I recalled. And then I think it came down to 2 or something like that. All right, so I'm gonna open up the floor to you guys. As I'm looking for a charger for my computer, but my computer shouldn't die. But Jared, please take on if it does, okay?
Okay.
And I'm utilizing every second of that vice mayorship that I have you for, Jared. I'll be like,
Thank you.
I feel sick. No, go ahead. All right, so perfect. So, Council, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the floor. More or less, I did send you this information out to you guys, right? And just to be clear, if, the ones that reached out to me was separately, so there was no conversation had whatsoever. It was just one message with information, and those that reach out and had a say, then it was an individual thing. Okay. All right. So Council, I want to know where you guys are at, and hopefully we could reach understanding majority or consensus tonight. So I'll go. Jimmy, you have your mic open. I'll go with you.
I actually need to know what the 3 things we're voting on, or so A, B, or C, or so. There's been some emails, and so maybe if somebody could clarify exactly what the alternatives are, and then we could just either vote or get a consensus on them.
Okay, so at this point, we all had agreed by majority that everybody's gonna get the 3% that's already inside the budget. That's phase 1, so we're not gonna discuss that. This is just discussing the additional 2%, either 2% additional for all, 2% for those making 45,000, or I think you had another suggestion to break the budget where we're looking at the numbers. It just to me sounded like more complicated than we originally envisioned. And I did send you guys information about what a 2% would look like for those under $45,000, and that is 8 employees that are not part of the FOP agreement. So to be clear, the FOP already have what they have. This is like something else, okay? So that's what more or less they are, Jimmy?
So point 1 is to give, so everybody's getting 3%, and one proposal is to do 2% extra for people who are below 45,000. Is that proposal 1?
Correct.
Proposal 2 is there a proposal 2, which is a flat rate? I mean, what are the other 2 proposals?
Point of order.
Two additional for everybody, Jimmy. Hold on, look. It's 2% for everybody, so that added up to 5% for everybody. That's the third one, and the third one that's the proposal that you had suggested, Jimmy. That was the third one. Okay, and okay, so Jimmy,
look at a point of order, which takes precedence.
Go ahead, Luke. But is this regarding the 3 points that Jimmy has mentioned? Is it something else?
My point of order is that we should pull up the spreadsheet with the 3 options so that everybody's looking at it, so that the public knows what we're looking at and we know what we're talking about. And I can share I have it pulled up right now. I can share my screen so everybody's looking at the same thing, or Ron or Melissa can pull it up. Doesn't matter who.
Melissa can do that, Luke.
I don't have that spreadsheet, Mr. Kamali, so
Ron, can you get that one, please?
or I could let Councilmember Chesick share his screen.
Go ahead and share it. And the other thing is, so your point order had nothing to do with those three being three different things, correct?
So we can look at the three different things and know what those three, the spreadsheet shows the three different things you're talking about with the numbers there.
But at this point, I needed to summarize in one line item what they are before we looked at them. So that we, so Jimmy, that's correct. Those are the three that Luke is going to be showing you in shorter version of it. So that
okay. All right. We're all saying the same thing. Okay.
Oops. Can you all, I'm just trying to make it so that I can see it on my screen and see you guys. So just give me a moment here while I make it so I can see it and see you guys. Okay. So this is the first option that Selena mentioned, was doing an additional 2% for, for everyone, which would cost $41,000.
Not for everybody, for non-FOP.
For everyone who's not in the FOP, because they're already getting the 12% raise. This is an additional 2% for just employees making under $50,000. That would be just a cost of $8,282. And then this was kind of the third option that we talked about last time, which is giving everybody a flat amount of $1,400. And that would be a cost of $45,000. And what this would do, by giving everybody a flat amount, you'd end up giving people making under $50,000 more than a 5% bump, and people making, close to 100 or over 100, more like a 1%, 2% bump.
Look, just a point of clarity, that is not a one-time addition, but that is a permanent adjustment.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It's a COLA adjustment, Jared. It's not like we decide this year will be moving like that forward. It's just for this upcoming year.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for folks watching. Thanks.
So I can start.
The floor is yours, Jimmy, because in reality...
that sounds good to me. If there's money to do that, gives people, a little bit more than 2%, people who lower down. So I'll start by saying that and get other comments.
Go ahead, Jerry, Valerie.
Yeah, I think the option that I think wasn't on here is just the current budget proposal, that is to do nothing. I'd like to do something additional than just the 3% COLA, which is why we're looking at these three options. I guess I'm with Jimmy. If if we can support this and, from a budget standpoint, I'm okay with it. Just, again, thinking about the, out year impacts it has on shifting everyone up. But if we do anything, I want to make sure we do the 2% for employees that are below 50K. I really feel like it's kind of important to adjust folks at the lower end of the spectrum. So thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Valerie?
Yeah, thank you. So as long as we have room in the budget for the additional 2% for all employees, I would go in that direction personally. But happy to continue talking about it. Thank you.
Just to clarify, guys, when you guys talked about all, I want you guys to make sure it's clear that it's non-FOP, because I don't want people to walk out with this thinking we mean all, because the quotes are not showing for all. They're showing just for all non-FOP. Just make sure we are very careful with that.
I will be clear. I'm for the additional 2% for all non-FOP at the amount of $41,254 if we have room in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. So I'll tell you where I'm at, right? I think I'm not where the flat amount is, right? Because I think 1,000 for 15 just makes no sense to me. But where I'm at is I feel I put 50. My apologies. It was supposed to be 45 because it does a big jump. And I'll give you an example for somebody that's making 39,000. The 5% is 1,968, right? For people that are making 82 is 2,400. For people making 98 and plus, almost 99 is 2,900. For people making over 120 is 3,700. A change. So there are 8 employees that are making under 45,000, and their 5% will be like 2,250. So that still will be less than what the other members will be getting, but it will at least bring it a tiny bit closer, because obviously 2,250 is nowhere near 3,707, right? That's the reason why the original, I was fine with everybody getting the 3, right? And 45 and under getting the additional 2%, mainly because it will help them a little bit more. And it's definitely a difference for you to be getting paid under 40,000, under 45,000 in this case, than for you to be getting paid, twice as much or 3 times as much in some cases than other members of the staff. So I thought this was something that not only will help those that get less than 45 in our staff, right? The other thing, we did it a couple years ago, but where I felt like we felt a bit is like we did it for 6 months and then we gave everybody else the amount, which basically means that for 6 months they were earning just a little more out of their own. They still were getting paid way under everybody else, right? But then it evened out. So that's the reason why I think that yes, times are hard, but even with the numbers I just read you, the 3% for some people is going to be close to $4,000, an increase from their current salary in July 1st, and it's only going to be about $2,000 for those making less than 45, and to have that. So percentage sounds like very, very, very big, right? But the reality with percentage, when it's a small number compared to a smaller percentage with a big number, it's the jump is big. Like I mentioned, the jump is close to $2,000 difference between one and the other, between the lowest earning employee and the one that earns the most in the city. So as far as do we have room? I will say to you guys that part of the reason why we also give the staff the extra, I think it's 10 or 11 days. Kamali, let me know which one is it. 2 hours for them to leave early was to account that we wanted to make sure that that's the way the city gives them back something. So the city, and I'm not talking about the holidays, right? The holidays we pay, vacation we pay, sick paid, they all have allocated times for that. This is something that we went above when it comes to, and it's not the standard in most cities, where it went to us giving the staff for them to leave 2 hours. Usually it's very rare that it's 2 hours early the day before a holiday. So if a holiday lands on a Monday, the staff leaves 2 hours early the Friday with paid. The city pays for those 2 extra hours of them leaving early. So that's the reason why I was okay on it, which becomes a little tricky from some of the staff because they usually leave at 3 because they come in so early, right? So when the staff is leaving, at 3, that's usually their regular time, and it gets adjusted. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I think this would be a way to help out a little more those that need a little more, and do good with the rest of the staff because we usually have honored the 3. No matter what the COLA is, when the COLA was 0, 0, 1, 2, they always got 3. That has not changed, right? So in that sense, the city has stood up even through COVID. We told them that we would do every single effort to make sure that nobody was going to be laid out. We bend backwards and forwards to make sure the whole staff stay with us. And from other cities, I do hear that about half of their staff got slashed to part-time to save the city and be able to support because it was a big, it was a big hit on everybody's budget, right? So saying that we could do this in 2 steps if you want. If we, because right now, I'll tell you this. Right now, it very much sounds that at the minimum, based on everybody's consensus right now, and this is consensus, the staff is going to get 3% COLA. And at the minimum, because by default, if the difference between all or under 45, at least people under 45 are going to get the additional 2. Now the third tier will be like, will the rest of the staff get the additional 2 or not? Okay. So that's basically where we're at. So option 1 basically gets at the minimum we're there, So at least that is my thoughts, and that's the reason why also I'm telling you the numbers, because the extra 2, it sounds like a lot for people under 45, but it's definitely half of what they'll be getting, when it includes the people that are over. So it's up to you guys what to do. I will honor either way, but that's kind of where I'm at with this. And I'll tell you this, even from coming from the Conference of Economic Development, the feedback that we were getting is going to be a bumpy year, right? What I'm trying to, my mentality very much is like, I don't want later on to have to decide that we're going to have to cut people out of the payroll because we need to find where this money is coming from to be able to sustain everything, sustain the staff that we have. Because like I said earlier in the budgets, like most of our budget is with staff. That is more than 50% of our budget is there, right? And I don't want to get ever to that position where we have to do that because it's going to be a bad.
So the flat amount gives people more at the bottom level. So just explain why that you don't like that. I mean, it would give them more than an extra 2%. In other words, the flat amount would give people 3% or 4% who are below 4. So what's the argument against that? I heard what you're saying. I'm just saying, what was the argument against the flat amount for everybody? It give them 3 and 4% and give people at the top only about 1%.
Okay. So to summarize it, Jimmy, it'll be the 3% plus an additional 1,415.
Yes. That's one proposal.
Okay. Well, I gave you my 2 with the other ones. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll pass the floor to somebody else, and let me think about it. Okay. All right. So Council, I'm gonna open up the floor to you guys.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I really like the flat amount proposal. I think we could kind of roll it down to like $1,400 to just save a little money there. Or we could keep it at $1,415 to just keep it flat. That's fine for me. That's fine. It really doesn't matter. But to Jimmy's point, what that would do is that would give people earning less than $50,000 would end up seeing like a 6-7% raise, which is more than the just getting an additional 2%. So I think that would be really good for people who aren't earning a lot. I do think it's important, however, to reward people at all ends of the salary spectrum more than just the 3%. I think we have a really good staff who works very hard. And I think that goes up and down the pay scale. I know some of our workers who are higher paid, yes, they make more, but they also work long hours on behalf of the city. And I really think they earn that money. And so I want to see everybody get a little bit more than 3% because inflation is so high. I just think that would be really good to do for our employees. I want to try to retain them. I want them to know that the city cares a lot about it and we put our money where our mouth is. So on the other hand, I do really like the idea of giving people who pay a lot less, who make a lot less, a lot more, because as a percentage, because inflation is really hurting somebody who's making $45,000 a year. So I think the flat fee, the flat award kind of, or flat increase meets those two interests. And so I support the 1415 increase for everyone on top of the 3%. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Valerie?
If the flat amount is better, then that's okay with me. I'm just interested in getting through this and figuring out the best way forward. So that's fine by me. Thank you.
Selena, are you on mute?
I am. I was. I'm definitely thinking. I mean, those. I'll tell you guys a part of the problem that I'm seeing with tying up with just inflation is like when inflation goes down, am I going to sit here and have the same argument and hear that the staff needs to be making, the COLA based on the low inflation? And that's the reason why I'm hesitant to that, because when it gets to 1%, like, and other cities do that, it's tied up to what it is. So the COLA will be like, if it's 1%, it's 1%. It will not be flat 3 as we usually been doing. So that's why I want to make sure that we're kind of careful with the precedent we're sending, because if next year, hopefully everything works out fine, and FY25, the cost of living goes down to only a 1%. Are we going to sit there and say, okay, let's give the whole staff a 2% flat because the inflation went down? So that's something that I struggle, because if we're going to be in 2 years making the opposite argument, it kind of feels like we're going around in circles. Okay. Jared, Jimmy, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand I understand the point you're making there, Selena, and I don't disagree with it. I don't think we're going to enter a period of deflation, but I do. The COLA adjustments, that is, and this is a one-time adjustment. So, I mean, this would, I think, recognize the moment that we're in without committing to future precedent. We need every year we would need to re-examine the budget situation and the external factors, including inflation and broader labor market and so forth. So I do, to really, I mean, everyone's point of our staff does work very hard. There is a lot of inflation hits folks very hard, particularly folks fall on the income spectrum in our city employees. And, I want to align COLA with the, increases going on, and also to ensure that we kind of continue to remain competitive as an employer within the region. So, I mean, I still like, I mean, my personal preference is an approach that provides that additional support at the lower end for folks that are lower on the income spectrum. And that, to me, is, either the first option there in column C or the third option in column H. So thank you.
Thank you, Jared. We do have a question from resident Daniel Carter under Block of Shepherd. So everybody's already getting the 3% across the board. The answer is yes. So I'll answer one at a time. This is for the discussion is for for additional COLA if we select to do something above the 3%, yes. What is the reason for wanting to bump everybody up above 3%? I think that more or less from summary is that, you know, inflation is high. Oh, there's inflation, and want to see if we could do a little bit more. I'll leave it in lame terms right now. That's more or less, and we all have like various feelings about where we're on this. Are there line items that will lose money to pay for this? Able to lose? I'm sorry, Danielle. That will lose some money to pay for this. Able to lose money that without making adjustments in the running budgets. The additional percent, the 2% has to come from somewhere. So it could be contingency or from somewhere else, but the budget as it stands right now only accounts for the 3%. So whether it's any of the options, we will have to get money from somewhere in the budget to be able to pay this, whether it's contingency that it's decreased at $10,000 right now from our last discussion, or is from to cut a line item from somewhere else, right? Yeah, the additional, whether is the 2 for under 45, the 2 additional for everybody of the flat amount has to come from somewhere within the budget. Where that is, the city manager will have to recommend to us what that amount is. It could be close to 8,000, close to 41,000, or 45,000. So yeah, so that money will have to come, whether it's like any of these amounts that you see. And I'm sorry, I'm moving my scroll. Any of the amounts you see in line item 13C, E, and H, those are more or less the amounts that we're talking about that will have to come out from somewhere in the budget. That and if we decide to say like either option A, B, or C, that 45, 41, or 8, right, has to come out from a line item of the budget. Obviously not the contingency if it's the 45, because I don't think we have 45,000 in the contingency, and I will be very scared to leave the contingency at, you know, $5,000, right? Because that's supposed to be in case of an emergency. That's where we go to approve funds to make things happen, right? So yeah.
Right.
So that's more or less the answer to your questions, Danielle. I'll let the council also answer, but that's where we're at. So the pool for the flat increase in the amount of debt services will move from FY24 to FY23.
Right.
Ron, you're gonna have to explain what that means, because I don't think it's very clear how that sounds. But Jimmy, do you have the answer to that? Or do
I think 2 things. One is that part of this reaction was doing this just for Danielle's, was the fact that the FOP were getting like 12% increases. And we wanted to kind of do something more than the COLA just to make up for some of that. The second thing, I think this number actually came from Mr. Wilson's number about moving the thing and how we figured that number would be. So it really doesn't involve any cut of the contingency things. And last, I just think flat is, you know, from all my, many years as a union representative, flat increases really help those people at the bottom, more than the people at the top. So I think, it's a progressive thing to do a flat increase, and that this money is paid for from the number of moving and Ron can explain it, to the year earlier. And the reason we're doing this was in some ways because the FOP staff were getting major increases, and we wanted to give some of our non-FOP people something also. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And to add to that, once again, the FOP is not getting the COLA, so be aware of that. They're not even getting the 3%, so 3% does not include it does not include them in the equation. So it's not like they're getting a raise plus 3% COLA. The COLA folded for this year as part of their increase. Okay, so I want to make sure we are very clear with that, because I don't want people to walk away with the illusion that they're getting both. Ron, Ron, can you go ahead and explain what that is, and that means we're going to be adding more to the budget,
Sure.
or on?
Sure. So what we would be doing is making some debt service payments in fiscal 23 that would be scheduled for fiscal 24. And the reason that we can do that is that we're actually spending under budget this year, largely due to some significant vacancies. So we have the room in the fiscal 23 budget to do these things. And by doing that, we lower the budgeted expense in fiscal 24. So that then creates the budget room to do the salary increases.
Ron, are you taking a pause or you're done? I don't want to cut you off.
No. That's the explanation. If anybody has questions, I'll see what I can do to illuminate that. So
on this, it says you're moving the amount of debt services will move from FY24 to FY23. So I wasn't sorry if I missed something, but you are it says you're moving funds from FY24 to FY23.
No, I'm not moving funds.
It says the pool the amount of debt services moved from FY24 to FY23. That's what's throwing a little bit off. Can you clarify that line?
Yeah, so we would be incurring the expense in fiscal 23 rather than in fiscal 24.
Because, Mayor, I just want to explain it to you. It's at the bottom of this spreadsheet. If you see that we have some room in FY23 that we can pay those debts that is scheduled for FY24, which is a total of $45,282. This is the same amount of the flat rate. So we can cover this increase in FY23 and reduce the expenses in FY24, as Ron said. It's right there.
Thank you so much. So basically the money is going to come out from the FY23, all those line items.
Yes.
So that way on it. But can I ask you a question regarding this line items? Because
Sure.
I know we are right now in April 25th, so we do not see anything happening in the next 2 months that could potentially mean that they will need to utilize this money?
No, that money is scheduled.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, I'm early.
These payments.
I'm early in the process of doing a year-end projection, but my real early look at it right now is that we're projected to have a surplus between $200,000 and $300,000.
Ron, please do not reveal all the information, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we want to stay on the surplus. We don't want to, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm asking this, because I just want to make sure that during those, because the money came out, I understand that there is potentially a surplus, but we still have 2 months in to figure out what's going on, right? I don't take it for granted that most of the expenses come back on the last 2 months, because that's when everybody remembers that the budget's coming to an end, and they want to make sure that they utilize as much as they can to be able to advance the work for the city. Okay, thank you guys for clarifying that. So Danielle, I guess money's going to be moved around from one year to the other to be able to free a little more money to make it happen. Valerie, go ahead. Valerie, are you raising your hand, like your real hand? Go ahead.
I'm a real person. No, I'm just kidding. So I just have a quick question about like going forward with this. So if we went forward with the flat amount, would those funds then be given to employees in FY23 and then the budget be passed with the the 3%? No. Okay. Just
No, that's the schedule for July 1st. But since this payment are scheduled for FY24, we can pay those debts right now out of FY23 because we have a surplus budget. And then we don't have those payments in FY24. And the employees will get the increase in July 1st of 23.
thank you.
Yeah. So basically, so you will have to make another adjustment if we decide to go whatever route we decide to go. You will have to make an adjustment to
Sure.
an amendment to this year's budget to be able to pay, correct? And you have to do an amendment of all these line items to the budget to be able to free the money to pay the debt.
No, what we can do, Ron, correct me if I'm not wrong, if I'm not right. We can finalize the budget before you guys are approving the budget and take those payments out from FY24 and pay it out in FY23. We don't have to show those payments in FY24 anymore. If you look at the budget, we have a section, it's called contingency and debt. So we can remove those and balance our budget. Right, Ron?
Correct.
So I'm sorry, I don't know if I wasn't clear with my question or you guys didn't answer my question. This line items in front of me, that line item 5520 and so on, those are from FY23
Yes.
or FY24?
FY24. These are the payments that are scheduled for FY24.
See,
But-
Mayor, my way I understand it is we're going to reduce the FY24 budget by taking out those expenses, and that will give us a budget surplus of that amount because it's going to be paid this year. So actually the budget for FY24 will actually have more money. We'll actually have $43,000 surplus, which could be used then to pay the salaries. That's how I understand it.
Yes.
Okay, but the money to pay it in FY23, where is it coming from? That's the second part of my question.
Well, I'll have to look for it. We know that overall spending will be below budget. I'll have to look for the specific line items.
Yeah. We can
But the mayor
provide
is
that
right that you'll
information.
have to amend the fiscal year 23 budget, or at least make an amendment to take some money out of that to pay for that expenses.
Maybe, I'm not sure about it yet.
It's gonna have to, because there's no money reallocated to pay that debt at that level. If not, you guys will pay it this year, right? Which means that we're gonna have to do a budget amendment. Because if you take any money off any line item to do it towards debt, we will have to do a budget amendment.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
we need to reallocate the money for it.
We do know that we're going to have another budget amendment because we have some things that came up late in the year.
Yeah.
So if we'll just make this part of that budget amendment.
So I'll be honest, I will feel more confident if I knew where the money from the FY23 budget was coming from, what bills are passing through that when, we're going to have a surplus, which is great, but I definitely feel more comfortable because you're telling me there's other things that are coming that we're going to add to the budget amendment.
Well, those other budget amendments will not have a detrimental effect on the surplus or deficit of the city. They are two grants in which the revenue and the expenses will be equal, plus recognizing the loan for Potts Hall and the offsetting expense. So
Mayor,
they'll
can
have
I ask you a
a net
question?
zero effect on the budget.
So I will ask you guys, so one of you guys is talking, let the other one finish, because I didn't hear the last end of Ron Wilson's statement, and then Kamali will give you the mic. Go ahead. What was the last thing you said?
So the budget amendments that are coming will have no effect on the surplus or deficit. They will net to zero.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And as a point of information to the residents, any surplus money goes into the general fund or the reserves. Which one does it goes to, Ron? If let's say that we have budgeted $100 for a budget and we only use 80 of those, where does those extra 20 go to?
Well, any surplus that the city has at the end of the fiscal year goes into what's called the fund balance.
Thank you.
And then at some future date, the city has the option of using that fund balance.
Yeah, but that's the reason why we have some money to be able, for a rainy day, that's basically what it looks like. In case something happened, that's some of the fund that we could use. So I don't want people to think that money vanishes is the thin air. We have to use every single penny, because at the end of the day, we need a savings account in order to be able to make sure we have what we need to. All right. So council. Let me see. Danielle says recreation committee wants to have a part. Danielle Carter, leave the rec committee alone. That's not going to be a problem for much longer. Okay.
I'd like to make a proposal, if that's all right.
Go ahead, Jimmy. The floor is yours.
Is that we do this flat amount, and that and that ask that Ron and do a budget amendment to make it clearer that that's where that money is coming from, so that the amount would be $45,282, which would come to basically $1,400 a person in the non-FOP unit. So that's my proposal.
Okay, and to clarify, I don't want people to think that this means it's 1,415 of COLA is 1,415 in addition to the 3% that varies between $2,000 to like 5,000 plus. So for some people that will be that COLA will be I'll tell you guys what the COLA will be. That will be $5,000 for some people and $3,000 for others. Just to clarify, so I don't want you guys to look at the 1,400 and think that that's what it is. It's actually, we're talking about 3,000 to 5,000, 3,383 in the lower end and 5,122 in the higher end for those employees. So it's quite a bit of money. So it's not just 1,415. All right. Thank you, Jimmy, for your proposal. I need to hear
a second, I guess.
I would second it.
So I have a point of information for you guys. So even if we approve it, we still need to do a budget amendment to decide what we want to do, depending what it looks like. So it means it's not even firm yet until the budget amendment happens, because we should not be approving things for FY23 unless a budget amendment is approved and passed. So just be aware of that. That's something that we need to address. We're choosing to address it after the fact. I don't know if that's the wisest thing for us to do, right? Because we usually will have to vote. Like, I think it has to go to first reading, second reading, and a hearing for the budget amendments, right, Melissa? First, second, and a hearing. Melissa?
Yes, Mayor, unless you make it an emergency.
And this is not an emergency. There's like no fire going through anywhere. So be aware that that is the process for the budget amendment. I believe it has to be 7 to 14 days in between. We look into what that is, but I know the hearing has to happen 7 days after the second reading has been approved. Before
any of the proposals would have to have the same thing, right? So
no, not necessarily, because if you're at the lower end, they could fine $8,000 in for FY24. A lot easier, they could fine $45,000.
Whatever. I mean, there's a proposal there.
So there's been a second. It's up for discussion. I do want you guys made aware that that even if you put it there, we have not yet approved a budget amendment to remove to move funds around to be able to pay the debt service. So you guys are looking into first reading, second reading, and a hearing before that could even take place. So just FYI when it comes to, but is it an emergency? No, it is not an emergency. It does not dictate an emergency period. So just FYI on that, on it. Kamali, anything to do when it comes to the...
Yeah, I just have a question for you. In FY23, Mayor, we have more than $200,000 in contingency line item. And my question to you, do we have to go and do that $45,000 budget amendment? We could use the contingency money without going through the budget amendment.
You still need a vote from council to utilize the money for that purpose.
Yeah, definitely we'll let you know. But what I'm trying to say, we don't have to go to that process to do the budget modification.
Well, you might as well.
Yeah, I would say, Mr. Kamali, because of, especially this is not like, $2, even if it was, you should go through the proper channels to inform the community about what's happening, especially with the budget, right? That's the reason why you have usually the first, second, and the hearing. And that's the reason why we go through it, right? To just make sure that that you put notice out there to the community that this is what you're choosing to move your money into. Because basically when we vote on it, we make an agreement between us and the community and the staff that this is what the money for the budget is going to be used. So if we're moving line items, money to other line items, right? It is also like the same way we need to alert the community this is taking place. So that way, if they have an objection or they have any concern or any questions, they have the ability to be able to have that opportunity. All right, council, there was a motion on the floor. We're in discussion. I'm hearing a little bit of everything. Where are you guys at with this?
I support the proposal. I think it's a smart proposal. I think we'll do the budget amendment for FY23, no problem. We can bring it up at the May legislative session for first reading, June legislative session for a second reading, and then have the first part of the June work session be a public hearing and legislative session to pass it. I think we'll be good to go. I think it's a good proposal, and I'm on board. Thanks.
Okay. Jamie, anything else to add?
No, I mean, it'll take a little extra time, but let's get it done.
Okay, go ahead, Valerie.
I'm good. I was just scratching my neck.
And just point of clarification to mine, we can still pass the FY24 budget on Tuesday. We don't have to wait for the FY23 amendment. Thanks.
We could, but it's bad policy to do that. It's kind of like projecting on something that we haven't passed, and we are having new council members potentially coming on the day the election's on the 1st. So I will tell you that that's the reason why the budget becomes a little bit interesting to pass around election time. Because of it, we could potentially have one new member, for sure, one new member of council. So I just want to make sure that we're not counting our chickens before they get here. But usually you need to be able to secure the money before you move to the other one. Just FYI, Okay. So Valerie, you heard you. I thought the floor is yours. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good with this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, Jared.
Yep, I'm good as well.
Okay. So this proposal is pending us approving the money for a budget amendment. I'm going to make sure that is loud and clear. So we could have it there, make the movement, but it is not approved unless the money is taken out of it, because if not, we do not have a balanced budget as of right now. will be 45,000 off. Okay, so I want to make sure you fully are aware of what I'm saying.
We will not be $40,000 off. We will have. It will be a balanced budget because there will be no expense for these line items in the FY24 budget. It will be a balanced budget.
You even heard everything I said, Luke. What I'm saying,
I think he did. We understand there has to be a budget amendment to make sure that everything is balanced. I think we're all on the same page on that.
Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for hearing. All I said is like, I want to make sure we do a due diligence to be able to make the budget approved so that way we're able to handle the money. That's all I'm saying. Let's make sure we follow through with it. It's done. Because if it doesn't get approved, we are going to get ourselves in a different situation where they're going to have to find where this 45,000 are coming from, because as it stands, if that change is not happening, it is meant to pay for other items.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy. All right. So Ron and Kamali, you know what the next steps are. Please make sure you work on it. Melissa, make sure you're working on everything we need to do to try to get this through. All right. Thank you guys so much. Can you put the agenda on the screen, Melissa, please? Okay, second reading. I guess this is going to be tabled for May 2nd, seeing that changes were made. It's not ready for vote. All right, so moving on to item number 6, presentation, discussion, Memorial Park Streetscape project. The Mayor and Council will have presentation discussion on what the project is, where we're at Memorial Park, and where we're going. All right, who has this? Who's going to start talking about this?
I can start chatting. Kamali, I don't know if you have any sort of deck you wanted to share, but I can just let folks know. The park is the same design that we got presented on previously. It went to MUTC for the consultation on the style. If you remember, there were sort of different pavers for Perry Street, for the sidewalk on Rhode Island Avenue, the sidewalk on 33rd, in the area in front of Pennyrail Station. So you can see it there, actually. There you go. And MUTC was good with the proposal, and Kamali put it out to bid. And he got his bids back, and I think he has a recommendation for us, and I can turn it over to Mr. Kamali. I think you're on mute, Mr. Kamali.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Yes, we did put the RFP out on March the 6th and requested a proposal from different contractors, and we received 6 proposals on March 31st. Then we opened that actually was, sending to us as an email. Then we shared the email.
I am so sorry. I'm going to cut you off as important information. The first part of this agenda item was a presentation about the project, and the second line item talked about the bids. Okay, so we split up, so that was 2 different things. So can you guys put back in the screen what the project looked like, and basically, if you could give us a history of what it looks like.
Sure.
Walk us through that. Will help.
Yes.
Because remember, this is new to, we have talked about it millions of times, but it might be new to current council members and new people.
Melissa, can you go down, please scroll down to page 1 of the drawings, please? Yeah, go up.
Yeah, okay. Right there.
Hold it right there. As you see go ahead, look, either me or you, I can explain it to you.
Sure. Kamala, you can jump in whenever you need to. So I think folks remember this design from previously. If you look at the top of the picture, you'll see Perry Street. You'll see 33rd Street on the left-hand side and Rhode Island Avenue there on the south side. On the top, right underneath the Adobe sort of trash button and circular button and ink button, you're going to see a few different designs in there. And if you will remember, those were the original designs from the University of Maryland. They're a conceptual design drawing with sort of serpentine benches. And if you remember, we had to abandon that design because of underlying utilities and gas lines that were there. So the project that you see now keeps the curb at Perry Street, just raises it up and fixes the grading on the sidewalk along Perry Street to make sure that there is no flooding of the building. Right now, that curb gets inundated with water that comes over it, goes into the stairwell, and is a problem for the tenants in those buildings there. So we'll be fixing that. Also at the corner of 33rd and Perry Street, there's a stormwater drain there that the inlet for that stormwater drain is very, very small, does not handle all the water. So there's a lot of water that pools at 33rd and Perry Street. So what they're going to do, that's part of this project that you guys have been briefed on before, is they're going to fix that storm drain, that inlet. They're also going to install a new pipe underground to get that water into SHA's system along Rhode Island Avenue, which will be able to handle all that water. You can't guarantee that it's going to get rid of all the pooling at really big events, but most water pooling events should stop at that intersection, which is great news. On 33rd Street, you'll see some multicolored paving, and that we've been briefed on before. The particular components they're going to use for that paving were sort of went to MUTC, and they're good with that design. I don't think there's pictures on it right here. As you move down 33rd Street towards Rhode Island Avenue, the patio in front of the wine bar, currently the wine bar has its patio system on grass. This will be much improved. It'll have an open patio area that'll be set off by some planter boxes. So it'd be really nice for the wine bar. They're very excited about that. And then next to the wine bar there, you're going to have a stormwater system to take in the stormwater. So you'll have native plants there. It'll be a bioretention area, much more beautiful than it is now. If you go to just right of that, you'll see a few pink circles as well as greenery. That'll again be a native conservation landscaping sort of place, much more pretty than just the ratty grass and the concrete that you have in that area now. The patio for Pennyroyal Station, they're going to keep that. That was in discussions with Pennyroyal, something that was important for them to keep that space as big as it is. But you are going to incorporate stormwater bioretention there at the bottom of the patio that will have native plants in it as well, and will be just a lot more beautiful than it currently is. And that brings you to Memorial Park. The two big green circles, like forest green circles, are the existing trees that will remain there. You can see the rock path that they've created. And they're going to have some boulders there that are sort of the amoeba-looking shaped gray big stones in the park. Some of those boulders are going to have historical markers in it, talking about the city, the park, the trolley line that used to run along Rhode Island Avenue. We'll figure out what those are going to say at a later date, but that's what those boulders are for. That's part of the funding we got from the Historic Trust. And you can see, if you guys remember us talking about this before, there was consensus from the mayor and council to kind of pull that park out further. I think, Selena, that was your idea. It was a great idea, so that we have more park space there with a couple of additional trees, so that the park space is bigger there, takes up a little bit more of kind of the no man's land of design that is currently in Memorial Park there. So it should really activate that space. There are you see little orange rectangles in Memorial Park. Those will be benches, so people have a place to sit. And then along Rhode Island Avenue, the sidewalk there is going to be each the edges of the sidewalk are going to be old streetcar lines to sort of give people the sense that there used to be a streetcar sign here that'll play into all the historic components of this redesign. And that will be pavers on that sidewalk side that will be different color pavers than what you see on 33rd Street on that sidewalk. And then there will be different color pavers around the connecting Rhode Island to Perry across Memorial Park, if you see they kind of wrap around the patio there. And then Perry Street itself will have pavers that will make up the street, gray pavers. It'll look really nice. And so this would just be a really great spot. Once it's all done, you could see closing down Perry Street on a Saturday, having concerts, having farmers markets. It'll just be a really cool spot around town. And the MUTC is very excited about it. Penny Royal and the wine bar are excited about it, and kudos to staff for working closely with them to make sure we're going to be making sure they can stay open and do business while all this work's getting done. And that's it. Mayor, is that enough, or would you like me to touch on any more? I think that's it. Kamali, is there anything more that I missed?
Can I have a chance to find my mic and answer?
Sorry.
Okay, so council, this is, and community, this is the Memorial Park. Thank you, Luke, for going through it and refreshing our memory of what it looked like. So there was a meeting that happened with the MUTC, right? I think the next document shows a level out of what it looks like. Can you guys show that next frame? And council, if you have any questions for Luke, let me know so I could call upon you. Jared, Valerie, Jimmy, how are you guys? Good so far? Okay. All right. Perfect. So, Luke, what are these right here that we see in front of us?
So, there is a picture of the flagstone steppers there on the top right. That'll be the sort of stepping stones that you see in the park. The decomposed granite will be the makeup of what's underneath the trees there. So it'll make it sort of a play area of sorts. The natural boulder seating, those are the boulders that I talked about, some of which will have historic information that you can see in the bottom right. And the benches there are just a couple of options for benches. I don't know if they have the picture of the benches that they settled on in this presentation.
All right, go to the next page and let us know. Go ahead, Melissa, or whoever's controlling my apologies. Who's controlling it? Is it Melissa or is it you, Jared?
Melissa, I think.
Right. Okay, Melissa, can you move to the next page?
So here are the pavers that we were talking about. These aren't exactly the pavers or I think some of them might be. I think the pavers that are on the top left, Mr. Kamali, I think those are kind of the Rhode Island Avenue and 33rd. Yeah, it's a Rhode Island Avenue.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you have, and then the pavers on Perry Street, I think are more like what you see there on the bottom left. Or is that I can't really see that with the color there.
Yeah, a little bit hard to see the colors.
Yeah.
But we can share the information on the city's website with the new materials that has been approved by MUTC last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Do you guys have it here so you guys could lift it up right now, or where are they at?
Yes, Mayor, if you allow me, let me share the screen.
Go ahead.
I should have it. And let me just go exit this, and maybe I'll be able to do that. Okay, so let me see. And then I go to my files, open that, if I could bring it up. Okay, materials. I'm just trying to find this. And then
So in the meantime, we do have a question for our resident. Says, are you, Luke, this will probably be for you, or Kamali, or Rocio. Are you still going to have the lighting on Perry Street that you proposed originally? The lights that wrap right across the road? And this is from Danielle Carr, 3200 block of Shepherd. Luke?
Yeah, that could be something we add. That was just in the conceptual design from UMD, but absolutely could be something we add. That's sort of up to the city after we do that, after we do this project. That was just in the conceptual design from UMD, but definitely a cool look and something we could do, especially for events, if nothing else.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kamali, the floor is yours.
Yeah. All right. As you see, this is some of the pavers that we're gonna use in front of the Penny Royal station, and the spec and everything is right there. That was presented to MUTC Design 2 weeks ago, and this is another area of the park that will be using this kind of the pavers.
So you can, Mr. Kamali, so everybody on the top right, you can see like on this page, these pavers will take up 33rd Street and the patio in front of the wine bar. You can see where that's tan in the map. And if you go back 2 pages, you can see these are the pavers that will be used for Rhode Island Avenue and the area that wraps around Penny Royal Station. That's where the tan is.
Yep.
And then you can go.
And one more drawing that I have right over here.
And this is for Perry Street. These will be the pavers that will be used for Perry Street.
All right.
And then these are the benches.
The benches,
yeah,
that we're gonna use, and it's been approved by MUTC.
And you can see they did take some of those curved benches design there to sort of mimic a little bit of what was in that that original proposal from UMD. And you can see where those red marks are, and then you can see the solid benches there that are sort of pinkish color on the left. So it'll be really, really, really nice looking.
And the last slide is the one that example of optional stones that we're gonna have boulders over there with the flag on it. Let me see if there's anything else that we can share with them. That's it.
I think that's everything.
Yeah. That was the presentation to MUTC Design 2 weeks ago. The materials that we wanted to be approved because the contractor has to go by our selections. Any question, Mayor?
I think Mayor is not on.
Yeah, I think she must have dropped by accident. One sec. We'll just hold for a second.
All right.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. I'm trying to connect in 2 different meetings because I think my computers are just tired. They're just like playing with me right now. All right. Is this the last slide, Mr. Kamali? I apologize.
Yes. That was the last slide that we showed the bulldozer with the flag on it.
All right.
If they have any question, we'll be glad to me or look to respond.
Council, do you have any questions regarding the presentation so far?
I don't.
Jimmy, you're good. Jared? You're muted.
No additional.
All right, Valerie?
No, I'm just very excited to see this project happening. So thank you for your work on this. Thank you.
Mr. Kamali, when will the work is projected to start? And when it comes to blocking of streets or traffic and work like that, that's something one of the residents asked me what it will look like. What is the projected date of like work to be start, 1, and 2? Is there any like traffic patterns that would change while this work is happening, and how will affect the local residents and the restaurant when it comes to parking and not just the Pennyroyal and Arrowine, but also like the businesses that are in the other side of the street and the apartment building. Go ahead.
Well, hopefully after tonight, as long as the mayor and council approve the contract, and then definitely we're gonna hopefully start in May, and I will keep the resident posted regarding the closure of any street, especially the Perry, probably the end of the Perry going east. We may have to have some closure, but definitely we're gonna share the information, and we will have a traffic control plan and share it with the community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kamali. Okay, so you guys heard that depending on tonight, I don't think it's going to be a problem passing, but you know, the idea is to start in May. And do you know how long the project is projected to take place, Mr. Kamali?
Hopefully, if everything goes well, between 12 to 18 months.
Okay, all right. So it's going to be like more or less simultaneously that going on at the same time that Potts House being worked, right?
Exactly.
So I would say just keep in mind, you know, my Rainier days in a couple weeks.
Yeah. No, we're not gonna bother you by Mount Rainier Day for this project, Mayor.
Oh my God, like
we're good.
Like I don't think people realize it's months with a big continuous S of happening. It's a lot of work, and
we keep everybody happy. We try to keep everybody happy.
Okay, the other thing there was, I will definitely flag to you guys, there is, I don't know if you guys saw my email, there is an organization that wanted to do an event right next to it. So they might have to be asked to do it on the other side of Perry, because I don't think we could be doing construction and the event going on at the same time. That would be a lot for that, for the area. So definitely like the people in the apartments across the street wanted to also know when it was starting, because it's, you know, they wanted to make sure they are forewarned when it came to the noise levels and everything else. And I say we will make sure we follow our own rules about like noise and everything else that's happening, because you have the people living upstairs in the meeting building, and across the street there's also a building of there's various apartment and homes surrounding that project as well. And I know they're feeling like one of the concerns the residents says, like they feel there's a lot of construction happening at the city all at once, and they want to make sure that we're moderating traffic, especially Rhode Island, as well as that we are definitely taking into account everything else that comes along with it. Okay, but thank you for the presentation and refreshing us where we're at. The city has done their due diligence to go to MUTC and get their feedback when it comes to, I don't know if I want to say the word approved, but get their feedback, their strong feedback about what they recommend best. Am I correct in this, right? And
yes.
That's the options that that are being selected, correct? Kamali?
Yes,
all right, perfect. Anything else you need to add? So we heard about what the project is, what's the tentative date of start, how long it's gonna go for, and the staff and the city will follow their own rules when it comes to protecting trees, putting, you know, like the time starting and ending and everything else. We read to every single resident that we have to make sure we are good neighbors, good members of the project building. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Council, are you good with anything else you need to ask about this? And I do see, I don't see, well, there was an additional question. Vice Mayor, let me know if anything else was typed in the chat. But if not, we'll move on to the next item if you guys are fine with that. We're good?
Good.
Luke, can I ask you a question? There is no more water, mist, or anything that has to do any water function, correct? From what I'm seeing, or did I miss something? I apologize.
Yeah, no more water function. That was too hard to install. That wasn't in the last time we got briefed after because of all the utilities under there.
Okay, that's the part that I apologize. That's the part that I cut off that you were mentioning. I just wanted to make sure, because I know not only just myself, but other parents wanted to see what in the park itself will be for kids that were younger. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. All right. So, Melissa, can I see the agenda, please?
Well, I think Kamali has to do the bid now, Selena.
That's item number 7, Luke. They got
sorry.
Mr. Kamali, could you please stop sharing?
That's what I'm trying to do that.
Stop sharing, Mr. Kamali.
Yes, I will. I will do that. I'm just trying to learn how to do that.
It's supposed to be at the top.
Yes.
Put your mouse where it says you're sharing screen, put your mouse over the top middle, and then
I see it. I see it. I see it. Okay. And please do not laugh. I'm trying to learn and see what's going on over here. All right.
There you go.
There you go. All right. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kamali.
Thank you.
Next item, and to the community, we'll be bringing you updates on the projects. Because right now we have 2 projects at least, right? Potts Hall and Memorial Park that's going to start, correct, Mr. Kamali? And
yes, Mayor.
So far, aside from the street and sidewalks, that's like a whole conversation. But we'll be bringing you guys updates, and I know we have requested ideally like a landing page where people could follow up the project. I think Councilmember Stolfes mentioned that, or Valerie, one of them, that there's like a page where updates are given, so that way people could follow on the project.
On the website.
Get informed. Yeah, please. So that way they could like log it in and be like, Potts Hall is blah, blah, completed, and like, X is Y and blah, blah, blah is Y. So that way they see the great work you guys are doing as well, because it's a lot of work. All right. Moving on to the next item, discussion awarding the bid for Memorial Park Streetscape project. The Mayor and Council discussed the proposal to receive and recommendations from the city manager regarding the Memorial Park Street Park. So you guys heard the presentation, and we split it so that we didn't miss the point, and that way it was in writing that this is what we're discussing. So, Mr. Kamali, the floor is yours. Let us know how many bids came in, what your recommendation is, and so on. You've done this with Potts Hall as well, so go on.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So we put the RFP out. We released the RFP on Maryland eMarketplace. And in response to our RFP, we received 6 proposals. And so, I'm sorry, my dog is barking. Sorry.
It was minimal, Mr. Kamali. You could barely even pick it up. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So as you see it on the screen, so we received 6 different proposals, and the lowest one in this one is from the users construction, which is 1.172278, $1,172,278. So I've been working with LID Center as a consultant on this project. LID Center has designed the project, so we went over all the proposals. We reviewed all the requirements, and we did provide the information to all the contractors because we did have some questions from them. We provide the questions to them. We posted, and after reviewing, and we concluded that we could go with USource because it's below our projected budget, which is 1.17 million, 1,100,072. And so what I'm asking Mayor and Council, since we have 2 grants that time is of the essence, and we want to make sure that we capture those grants by June 30th, I believe that we could work with the USource. USource has done the facade improvement for the city. We did have a contract with them for $300,000, and they did a good job. They finished the project on time, and Mr. Hopkins and I didn't have any problem with them. And I believe, we could go with users and finish the Memorial project on time, the Memorial Park on time. So I defer to your decision, and I do appreciate if you give me some direction on that.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. And Mr. Kamali did point out that USER has done recent work in the city. And I will tell you from my experience with them, and mind you, we have nothing to do until we vote here. So we do not send, the city sends it out, and the city manager, the process which it works, Mr. Kamali, correct me if I'm wrong, they are submitted, and on the due day, they go ahead and open them. and they review the information. So that's basically more or less Mr. Kamali. They listed the various locations where he had put the listing out. So abiding by the grants information and all of that good stuff. So I wanted to make sure that is clear. My feedback on users, I like the way they work. They're very community focused. They have a lot of patience, and they definitely work hard. I mean, I'm happy with like the Main Street project. You know, they're great. So I think that I'm great there. The amount is right, and they so far we have gotten good feedback for the businesses that have worked with them in Rhode Island. So we do have direct information from our business about you know, how that has been working. All right, so Constance, I'm gonna open it up to you. Well, technically, if we could reach consensus today, Kamali could start working on all the documents that need to be to sign, and then we could move to the next one to vote, right? But I'll leave it up to you guys to decide what you guys want to do. But we are doing our part to let the community know what the bids came in, what the process was, and what the recommendation is, and who we're looking forward to moving forward with this project itself, so that way they get notice in an open meeting. Okay. All right. So Luke, I'm gonna go with you, and then I'm gonna jump to. Well, actually, you know what? Let me go to Ward 2, because it is a Ward 2 little corner right there. I know Ward 2 is like, it's our part. All right. So Councilmember Valerie, Jared, Jimmy, and Luke, I'm leaving you at the end. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think I reviewed the contract. It looks, or the proposed contract, I think it looks good. And I also agree they've done good work in the city so far.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Jared?
Yep. Appreciate your work. Assuring the both the responsiveness of the bidder, all the bidders, but the suggested bidder, and you know, I appreciate that. It's also you know, the one that we're move forward with is also the lowest, and that we know is going to do good work. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jared. Jimmy?
I'm fine with it.
Luke is like waiting and touching that mute button. Go ahead, Luke. I know you don't want to say nothing, but I'm forcing you to say something. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Mayor. I just appreciate everybody who's put in time here. Yeah, a lot of work went into this, and thank you all. And I totally agree with you, Source. So just thank you, everyone.
All right, perfect. So I did start my end. I would say one, definitely thank you to everyone that submitted bids. The city manager did provide the bids to the mayor and council for us to review all of them as well, in case we have any questions to direct it to him, so that we had a fair chance to read everything else. And I want to make sure people realize that sometimes it's not just the lowest bid, but we try to figure out what the bid is, to figure out who would do best for the community in the project. So that is also part of it. So in saying that, you know, I'm hearing consensus, unanimous consensus for the 5 of us to move forward with U-Source. Am I correct on that, Council?
Yes.
No, Luke, no? All right, so we have unanimous consensus, Mr. Kamali, for you to move forward for that. So go ahead and do whatever documents you need to do to get it across in order to get our project on it. So big thank you to everybody that's been working. I know, Mr. Kamali, you were working this when you were Public Works Director. It's also part of, like, you know, Rocio's work as well now. I know Ron was involved with some of the grant writing as well. Luke, obviously, you have been working really hard on this project, and I mean, those permits felt like it took an eternity, but it wasn't lack of our team, but it was like a lot of love and effort. So thank you guys for making this happen, and it definitely will buy in towards our overall revitalizing the Main Street project that we have been doing for quite a bit of time, and it will like definitely revive that block and bring more people to have, like, if I remember correctly, Luke, from the original presentation, was to have a place to gather and build community, correct?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember
that's right.
that. You'll be surprised. Okay, perfect. So, Mr. Kamali, you have our unanimous consensus to move forward with USource. You could put it in the agenda for us to like vote on it, but you could move forward to getting everything signed and move along. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and thank you, the team, for making this happen.
We look forward to a lot of beautiful work right there. We
Thank
all
you,
love
Mayor.
big weddings. All right, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kamali, for your leadership as well.
Thank
All right, so moving on to the next item. You guys have me for 15 more minutes before I collapse and fall asleep, guys. Like, I don't know if I could hold on for much.
You're not the only one, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. I'm almost there. Oh, look, item number 8. But before number 8, Melissa, can you put the events that we have? Okay. So, I know. We'll read through them, okay? So the MRTV Virtual Candidates Forum will take place on April 26th, which is tomorrow at 7 p.m. It will be virtually. It's been shared all over social media. MRBA, our team is also going to send a notification out, I believe, tomorrow or something along this line. Arbor Day is April 28th. We're celebrating 20 years of being a tree city. So please go love your trees, right? Go plant trees, go help. And they have an event on the 29th as well. Arbor Day event, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Rogers Park. That's like the park where the goats visit on Eastern Avenue. I'm pretty sure like Luke will be there with a little red flag, like letting you know where it's at in case need be. Election Day is May 1st. It's at the Nature Center from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And this is Ward 1 has one seat open and Ward 2 has a seat open. So both wards will go out to vote. So come on down, please vote. Month of Peace will start on May 1st. The Asian American Month starts on May 1st. The White Back of Road to School is May 3rd. Please make sure you drive extra careful on those days. And, staff and, community members are encouraged to walk back over road to school with their children, right? But definitely drive extra carefully during that day. More than anything, right? Community shredding event will take place on May 6th at City Hall from 9 to 12. So bring a box of items you would like to shred. I know this is something the community has been asking for a bed. So it is here. So bring your box. The youth scholarship deadline is May 12th at 5 p.m. City Clerk Rainier MD. You could do it electronically or in person. All right. Open Studios Tour in the Gateway Art District starts is on May 13th. Please be aware that there is a map that Red Dirt Studios put together. So we are gonna be sharing it with the city so they could. I know Councilmember Woodall and myself have shared that map, right? I know Jared has definitely liked it or seen it for sure because I saw a little comment. His very strong, supportive comment. So this we are going to be requesting the city to share that map, come support our artists, and check out the great work that they're doing, right? Then we have Bike to Work Day. Did Jerry look like sneak this one in? Bike to Work Day, May 19, 2023. So I guess we have Luke and Jerry who will be biking to work that day.
Yeah.
Thank you both, because I'll go ahead and like clap his. I think Valerie knows how to bike too as well. All right, Recreation Community 5K is May 20, 7:30 to 10 a.m. That's the same day as Mount Rainier Day. And Mount Rainier Day, our big event is May 20th. We turn 114 years old, 11 to 5, the parade. Lineup starts at 10 and takes off at 11. So a map is going to be shared if it hasn't already been shared. Then we have Memorial Day on the 29th, where city administrative offices will be closed. And I saw, I did see your messages popped in my screen. April 27th, first speaker series event at Gateway Media Arts Lab. So send that information to Melissa so she can add it to the next meeting. Well, doesn't matter. I think the next meeting is too late. All right, Poetry in the Park, Spring Park will be on Saturday. And I'm sure you all know where Spring Park is. We had many discussions about Spring Park through over a year. of discussions on Spring Park. Okay, if you don't know where it's at, it is if you go on 35th Street, if you go on Bunker Hill, if you go on 34, you could make if you're coming from City Code up 34, left on Bunker Hill, right on 35th, and it'll be like at the end of the block, 33rd and Shepherd. There you go. Okay, so that more or less covers everything that I have right now. Council, if you have any announcements such as that, can you guys, or something you guys wanted to publicize, please send it to Melissa so she could add to the agenda. So that way we could read through them and it helps in case we miss something. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Seconded.
No, you guys took forever seconding. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Any objections, abstentions? None. Okay, so 5-0. This motion carries. Have a great night, everyone. And please come out to the various events to celebrate our Tree City. I know the Green Team is putting a lot of work to make sure this happens. Okay, so thank you guys, Solar Park Communities, to our staff. Thank you guys so much and have a good night.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
You still have one
tonight.
meeting with us, Jimmy. Don't be
You
like.
still have one more meeting, Jimmy. You still
No,
have,
I don't.
Leave.
That's the last meeting.
No, May 2nd.
No, you have one more.
May 2nd, Jimmy.
They're not sworn in until after May 2nd.
May 9th.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Jimmy's already going to